That's even worse. Nice you can join us, Captain.
Hey, I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
I didn't invite
All right, we are live. I would like to call the meeting to order. This is October 12th, the Litchfield Budget Committee, and if we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first of all, I'd like to welcome Julie. She is our newest member, so welcome. Everybody be nice to her, at least for this meeting.
We're not voting, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be easy.
Why give her a false sense?
All right, review and additions to the agenda, just a couple of small things. I did update the agenda and I sent it around because it's a live version. So just add to make sure we go over the tax rate was set recently. There was a legal opinion on the budget committee recommendations for warrant articles. I just want to make sure I read that so that everybody's aware of what it says and why it came about. Also, the fire station committee is being formed, and so the question is to be discussed about whether we want to have a budget committee member on that town committee. And then just under school district, we had a request for just some more detail on the technology spend ahead from the end of the last fiscal year, so I have that just to hand around. So those are the changes that I'm aware of.
Sounds good.
And so at this point, if there is any public input, I think the audience is all here for a reason, and so we'll, we did review and acceptance of minutes. We did get a set of minutes today, so we're going to push those off until the 26th so that people have an opportunity to take a look at them. They're technically not minutes, but Michelle took notes of the presentations because the last meeting was not an official meeting, it was just presentations. So if you want to take a look at those and then we'll...
Do you have minutes from the 28th?
Do we still have minutes from the 28th? Oh, well, then we should take those up. I didn't realize they had not been approved.
Or did I? I don't, oh, is that the one I did?
Apparently.
Yeah, I haven't read them.
So, have people had a chance to review them? And all right, we'll push those off to them.
Thank you.
So, also September.
Cindy, I guess I would just say I'm puzzled why you would do anything official with what happened last week.
There was nothing official.
In terms of the minutes, you're right. You're right. And as I said that, I was trying to think of what is the appropriate
I think
the thing to do.
At
They're
least
basically notes.
Right, but
Yeah,
you want to confirm that you're comfortable with the representation of your opinions and maybe?
But it's not a meeting.
Right. It was simply information was presented.
Well, you don't have to
You don't
call
have to
them
vote on
minutes, just say that there are notes.
Well, I'm not going to vote for it because I wasn't here.
Right.
I'm just
Right.
thinking about
Right. It's nice to
how it
have.
gets reflected.
I don't think you can have a vote. There's no official minutes, so
Right.
if you
Well,
wrote
that's
it,
why I'm wondering
you can
how do
share
you
it
deal
as
with the
notes.
document?
You can share it as
Yeah, but
notes.
you
as
would
work
want to-
product and be done with it that way.
But you should still review them to make sure that you're comfortable with how whatever you were said is
So
reflected.
here's what I'll do.
There should be no commentary from us, though.
No, you can have comments, but you're right. There's nothing to vote on. They're
Right.
simply informational. So I'll put them as an agenda item. If people have issues they want to discuss about them or questions that they raise, they can be a discussion item, but they're not, you're right, they're not something we need to officially act on because they're simply informational.
But for those who don't want to watch the video and would rather read the
Oh,
minutes, the notes,
You should watch it.
I did watch it.
Any
I
member who wasn't
watched
here,
it like 3 hours
any
ago.
member who was not here needs to watch the video.
I did. I was
Oh, no, you
not.
weren't. That's right, you weren't here.
I did my homework.
Because, I mean, information was shared, and I hate to have us come back and go and ask the questions again if you know it was all covered.
I'm 52 minutes in, so I got 30 minutes left to go.
It wraps up, yeah, it's not
That's
that.
it fairly quick.
Good.
All right, so that is minutes, or non-minutes.
It's like Carrie Ann, you can do that.
Correspondence, I forwarded, I think it was earlier today, some information that came from Troy. What I realized afterwards, it may not have had the original question as part of it. So I'll just, when we get to that part of the budget, I'll just make sure that everybody understands the question that was asked and what that is in response to. So if you're in the dark, hopefully we'll shed some light on that. And with that, we can just jump right into budget review. So John, Troy, however you want to, whatever order is best for you.
I think we're going to start with the library first.
And just a reminder, the library budget is a separate tab under the library budget. And I actually have it online, so if somebody needs a copy, I can share. I meant to print out an additional copy, but I have my copy. If anybody needs a copy. Everybody get it? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
You have the floor. Welcome.
All right. So first, I'd just like to make sure you have our revised budget for those who have paper copies. So the total is $242,448.
That's the one you sent out.
Okay, so that was the link today. I printed this a
printed.
couple of days ago, so
Okay.
I have the printed copy is the old copy.
Okay. Okay, so the budget is fairly straightforward. If you look at the first sheet, the summary sheet, you can see the increase that we are requesting is $5,338. The vast majority of that is a result of the warrant article from last year for the second year of our wage plan implementation. So that accounted for $4,373 of that. The remainder of $965 can pretty much be attributed to the fact that the library's being put on town water now. We have been on a well that is a little iffy from time to time. And the estimated cost of that is $639. And then with the increase in electricity, that added on to this, and we need bank checks. Woo! So there's not a lot you're going to see on here that's any different than it has been. Would you like me to go through line items, or?
Unless people have specific questions, I mean,
Pretty straightforward.
yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and you have all the backup.
Right.
I know one of the things I saw somewhere, so you get a lot of donations that help fund some of the
Summer reading
the
activities,
Okay.
yes.
And passes to various museums and whatnot.
Right.
Okay.
Right, so the Friends of the Library contribute to our museum passes, activity passes. So this year we have the New England Aquarium, and we have Charming Fair Farm, the Aviation Museum, the Millyard Museum, the Sea Science Center, so a variety of things for different ages. And then the donations you're referring to for summer reading come from local businesses, and they supply money so that we can bring in performers for the summer, and some of our other items that we need, prizes. We get a lot of donations of prizes from people. So whether it's a gift card, or like Mel's actually donates mini golf and laser tag for every child that finishes the program. So there's a lot of things like that. McDonald's does the same thing. So that helps a lot.
So is that why, because I noticed that children's program supplies, the year-to-date is $38. Now, my assumption, I could be wrong, is that most of the programming is during the summer?
Well, yes, that's true. We do have monthly programming as well with the book groups, and we have monthly crafts and different things, but Generally speaking, it's like one bulk purchase at the end of the year.
Oh, okay, because that's what I was trying to figure
yeah.
out. If most of the programming's over, but you've only spent $38.
Right.
That's why I was asking about the donations and stuff.
Yeah.
So at the end of the year, you'll be purchasing supplies for the children's programs
Right,
for
and
the
the team
coming years?
programs. Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Kind of go through the closet and see what we need.
Okay. Anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So we'll go to the road agent budget, which is account number 4311 dot 10. We have John Pinciero here, who's our road agent, and I'll go through the budget, and John's here to answer any technical questions that you have. So the road agent budget, you see that the overall bottom line increase is $1,192. Two areas of increase is the highway, is the stipend that we give the road agent. It's just been $913 for several years, and the board felt that it should be an even amount of $1,000 this year, so you see an $87 increase. Also, the propane cost is up $1,105, and this really is directly impacted from the increase in our cost this year for propane.
Is that contract already locked in, or?
Yeah, so that contract is, we piggyback the SAU's contract. So, and that's the price that they've locked in this year, $1.34.
All right, so this is where the question rose. So on the road agent budget, one of the items is consulting, engineer fees, and stormwater management. So last year, there was also a $20,000 request for this line. And we got an outline of some of the work that was expected. It may not happen, it may happen. The involvement of we'd have to draw up plans and all that went into it. So when I saw this was again, and we were told that it would be a recurring cost, but that cost wouldn't necessarily be $20,000. So when I saw this, I asked that if we could get an accounting of what exactly was spent on the storm management for this year and what is anticipated for 2018. So that then was the response that I forwarded around today. So Troy, do you want to just give a summary
sure.
of where we are with that?
Yes, so, and just as a recap, one of the things I did do is I provided you with a hyperlink of a handout that either New Hampshire DES did or EPA, and it's actually laid out very well. Gives some history of the municipal stormwater permit. It goes way back to 2003. Again, this is all part of the Clean Water Act, and EPA back then came out with the original permit. And basically, the permit is that if you're a municipality, a county government, any type of public entity that is discharging stormwater into public waterways, then it's a regulated activity. So that's how this all evolved. And initially, there was a permit in 2003. The town applied for that, and there was annual requirements. It primarily was more of just an annual reporting requirement with some public outreach. For whatever reason, this permit is supposed to be a 5-year permit, and it took the EPA up until this summer when they finally issued the second permit. They just continued to reissue. Well, they never issued a permit, so the current 2003 stayed in effect. So, but everyone for the last, this has been heavily monitored by towns and cities throughout New England, throughout the country, because of the cost, the impact it was going to have on towns. So we now know the rules and regulations are out. people are meeting. I'm attending meetings pretty much on a monthly basis, trying to learn what the requirements are for the town of Litchfield. And the permit will take effect this July 2018. The first step that the town will be required to submit will be a notice of intent to apply, and that's due October. In order to put that,
This month?
October 2018, so
Okay.
in this budget that we're talking about. And that notice of intent sounds simple, but it really is that's your plan of action for the next 5 years. So there's going to be a lot of work that will go into just submitting that notice of intent. And then very quickly, less than 6 months, well, just a little over, but by July 1st, we start to hit our first deadline. So July 1st, 2019, we will need to have we'll have to have all of our mapping done. So one of the first steps is to go out in the community, identify all of our catch basins, all of our stormwater management systems. They could be drainage swales, they could be catch basins, some of these, what do you call them, the filtration ponds, those types of things. Something that the town is using to collect stormwater, we collect it and then we eventually discharge it. In addition, we're going to have to identify where all the outfalls are. And this will be probably the biggest task, where we'll have to figure out where all of our pipes go underground. And so I don't know exactly how we'll do that. We'll be utilizing engineering services. We'll be doing some in-house. But it'll be a combination of probably using cameras, using dye, just getting out in the woods and walking areas that we kind of think we know where these outfalls are. And it's going to be a tremendous amount of work. That's where I see a lot of our work occurring in this $20,000 allowance, will be the mapping. And then there is a discussion, as I said in the email, about forming a coalition, which is very promising. And I'm sitting in these meetings with other town engineers, these, Nashua, Merrimack, Derry, Londonderry, Manchester's involved. They have full departments that deal with this stuff on a day-to-day basis. So the information that's being shared is excellent. And the regional planning commissions are trying to get involved. So we may all had a discussion yesterday about each town initially, just to start this process, maybe we just all contribute $2,000 as seed money, and we start to work together to identify things that we can share cost in. One of the things that was very clear was that we need to have testing agencies go out and test the water that comes out of the outfall pipes to determine what types of pollutants could be in the water. Hopefully we don't discover anything, but if we discover something, that leads to more costs, more investigative work. So, that's really what we're probably going to be doing in the first year, 17 months. That number, $20,000, is probably a good number. Again, to really get our hands around this, the first couple years get behind us, each year we'll learn more on what the cost will be. It could be more, it could be a little less. The document that I have a hyperlink to, the EPA has an estimate for towns like Litchfield at $40,000, and for the bigger cities, $500,000. We used to carry, I think, $30,000 for this amount a couple years ago in anticipation, and it got reduced down to 20. Based on what I'm hearing, at some of these meetings, I think 20,000 is a good solid figure for what we need to do.
So what's happened to the money that we've already set aside for it? We had 20,000 last year. Did we not have like 30 grand the year before?
No, the
I think it's
first
20 a
year,
year
the first
before.
year it appeared was this past year.
there was a warrant article beforehand.
So it's like all other budget items, if it's not expended, it just rolls over into your general fund as unexpended funds.
No,
Like this year, like I said in my email, I'm telling you, we got hit really hard with the winter last year. And so this money will be used to help the department. We're probably going to exceed the bottom line of the highway department budget, but this money will help go towards those
No,
costs.
and I appreciate
So
that.
here's the thought, though. I'm assuming there's some anticipated unexpended funds for the end of the year. We don't know at this point what they are. Based on the fact that you've been going to meetings, we may put some seed money into this coalition. At the end of the fiscal year, if there's unexpended funds, I would suggest encumbering some of what you're going to need so that it will relieve the burden of what's coming this coming year. And in other words, it's a tight budget. So if you can encumber some money from the end of the year funds so that this can be reduced, I think it will help in several other areas in the budget.
Yeah, it's going to be an extremely tight budget year this year. We've had
Legal costs. in
we've had some
general.
legal costs that we've shared with you. I know we had the hydrant rental cost that was not budgeted for. That was another $26,000. The budget committee made some adjustments last year. One of the cuts was just sort of a blanket. I can't remember if it was a $20,000 or $30,000 reduction in health insurance, and it was just, well, you guys can find it. You'll find the money somewhere. So, we've got some overruns in other departments as well. So, and the board always takes a look at the end of the year if we have some funds remaining, trying to encumber what we can. This would be an excellent place to try to do that. I would.
That's simply my suggestion. The money was budgeted. If you're doing any work at all, and it sounds like there has been some work going on, that encumbering some of this to relieve next year's budget might be in the best interest of the town.
I agree in that perspective because I just find it interesting that we sat here last year and I pretty much was adamant that we weren't going to be spending much of this money this year because we didn't know. No, we need it, and we allocated the money for this purpose. We didn't spend much of it for this purpose. It's just, to me, it's frustrating when, like, what's the point?
Well, the permit last year, when we sat here last year, the rumor was that the permit was going to be issued January 1st, 2017. No one knew what was going to be the requirements of the permit, and every town was throwing darts at the wall, trying to figure out what they should allocate for funding. The permit was never issued on January 1st, 2017. So, we just now are starting to understand what the requirements are of this permit.
No, so I get that. So
I'm
to
just
me,
saying-
I would like to see it encumbered for next year because that's what the purpose was for. I mean, we had this discussion about how much it should be. Should it be 40? Should it be 20? Should it be 10? With the expectation that the money would be for this permit. And if we know it's coming next year and we've already have money set aside for that purpose, that's what it should go for, in my opinion.
Carrie, what do we do with the other overruns, like the legal fees?
Well, we can
Because
have
bottom line, we can't encumber, if the bottom line runs to zero, we have nothing to encumber.
Well, then I think there are other difficult decisions within the budget that ought to be made. And I sit here every year and say that maybe we should consider whether or not, when we did our wage plan, we should be awarding 40% raises. Whether we need to renegotiate our healthcare plans because some of the costs in here are outrageous. There are other difficult decisions. Maybe we need to reconsider our staffing plans. Maybe there are other decisions that need to be made to bring this budget in line. But just to say, well, nothing we can do, costs go up. When a family's costs go up, decisions are made. When a town's costs go up, everybody just has to pay a little more. And that's not the right way it should be done.
I think the board is doing exactly what you're saying. We are looking at our costs and trying to reduce an area so that we do come out flat, or at least to the appropriation at this point. But there are, as we just listed out last meeting, there are several overages that we didn't even expect. Hydrants, the healthcare costs, some of these costs, and then the winter was tough. So we're going to do that. Saying that we're not doing that is not correct neither. We are looking at it hard.
So right now, there's about 25% of the budget left as of the last accounting we got this past week. So as we get closer, and you get a more firm idea of what is gonna be unexpended, I think we can revisit it. I mean, I'm making this suggestion because I understand the uncertainty, but that $20,000 was there, and we're facing a tight budget. We gotta figure out the best way to go forward. If there's a chance that you can encumber it, then I think that's the way to go, and I'm simply making that suggestion as we get to the end of the year.
I'd just like to clarify that Troy mentioned that the Budget Committee cut stuff. We cut stuff to meet the taxpayer recommended tax cap. It wasn't that we didn't, and I remember sitting here that night trying to figure out where we were gonna find $20,000.
We're not doing that again. And I don't care if I need a second, we're not.
No, I'm just saying, it wasn't like we
No,
just,
and exactly, I think.
it was really difficult last year.
It was, and it doesn't, like I said, just with our fire hydrants, we're already through the roof, so I mean, I get what you're saying, I certainly understand.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out that
Nope.
a reduction was made.
Absolutely.
It wasn't, I'm not blaming the Budget Committee, but a reduction was made, and we did have to figure out how to make that up.
And we're in
And then I
the
just
same
wanted
boat
to
again
clarify.
this year.
I wanted to clarify, because when we met our first meeting this year, I did inform the board that throughout this budget, you would see adjustment in wages. So, for those people watching at home, and for anyone, sitting here this evening, as far as wage increases for this year and going forward, this year you had a union contract that was approved by the voters. Those employees received a 2% increase on April 1st, 2017. The selectman was not able, because the funding was not in the budget, to implement the third year of the wage plan as they had, worked out a plan 3 years ago. But what they modified it, and they decided, let's just move forward with getting on with our performance review and pay for performance. That was done. Employees received pay increases effective July 1st based on their performance. There was a few employees that received 3% raises. There were some that received 2%, and there were some that received none. There was no 40% wage increase granted.
No,
at all.
you're right, not in a single year.
I know, but
But over the course of the implementation
just-
of that wage plan.
I don't want
there
anyone to
was-
sit at home
Harry, let
thinking
him
40%
finish.
wage
Yeah.
increases were
Yeah.
granted. I just don't want anyone to think that.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on the road agent? All right. So next is road maintenance.
All right, so this account is 4312 -10. A bottom line increase this year, $41,731. You'll see in wages, we have an increase of $5,816. This includes the highway manager, a full-time 40-hour position, the equipment operator, which is a 32-hour part-time position, and seasonal employee at 26 weeks, and that's 32 hours budget, scheduled budget. Contracted services, this is for the contractors that we hire to plow snow. This is up $3,840. I just wanted to point out that the contractors' feedback we received from our contractors that we've been relying on for many years is that they've not had an increase in their hourly rate. So for the contractors that actually provide a driver and a truck, they're scheduled to receive a $5 per hour increase. There are some contractors that provide us just with an operator and they drive our equipment. They would not be receiving an increase in their hourly rate. So they would remain at $40 an hour. The calculations that Jack and I use here is really just, every year is different. Every snowstorm is different. I can tell you right now, last year we learned that a half inch of wet snow and ice can go for it can be a 12-hour event, all staff out. Whereas we could get 8 inches of snow and we've got it off the road, things cleaned up in 4 to 6 hours. So it really is, even though we try to put together here some scenarios of, what it costs, it's a historical type number. Tree removals are up. We've increased that to $5,000 a year. If you drive around all of our highways and streets, you'll see that we have very mature trees. The limbs are hanging out over the roads. The trees are leaning over the roads. So it's not only a safety concern, it actually does, some of those hardwoods, the oaks, the pines, they cause problems during the winter months because they collect the snow. We get the roads all cleaned up, and then at 2 o'clock in the morning, stuff's dropping down, freezing up, we get accidents, limbs get broken, Jack has to get called out, police get involved, sometimes fire. So we really want to get a little bit more aggressive on our tree removal. The problem is, Jack and his crew can do a lot of the trees, but we're talking about the mature pines, the mature oaks. Sometimes it's crane work. It's $800 to $1,000 to do some of these trees.
You had one right in front of the school path that the superintendent called me on. I mean, that was $950, I think, somewhere in there.
For a big pine.
And we have one on Cutler Road that there is a lady that lives on Cutler Road who has called and informed me she will not travel that road. I have no money to take it down, and it's on the curve. So if that tree comes down and someone's coming across Cutler, it's going to be a real serious problem. It's a huge 3-piece pine, so it's going to require a crane. So there are some major issues. I mean, even $5,000 won't even put a dent in it, but we have to be reasonable.
The next line that you'll see is an increase of $3,500, and this is for the catch basin replacement. So replacement of catch basins can be a couple different things. It can be repair work that you see just when the asphalt sinks around the catch basin, and we go in, we saw cut it, fix some of the substructure, patch it all up, everything's good. But in some cases, we're finding, and we found quite a few times this year, that unfortunately from a catch basin to another catch basin, the pipe that connects the two is, we don't know how old it is, but it's galvanized, and the bottoms are rusting out. So unfortunately, really, the only way we discover this is we get a phone call that there's a sinkhole on such and such road, and then we get out there, we assess it, we have to dig. Most likely, it's going to be replacing a 20-foot section pipe. And we think that because of the activity you had this year, we're thinking that we're going to start to see that activity every year because of the age of the pipes. So this is like the tree amount. We'd love to ask for a lot more, but we just thought we'd take it in little steps, and that's why you see that line up.
So, I have a question for you. When you do these catch basins and you have to replace a 20-foot section, do you then repave that section of road? Because could that be part of the highway block grant be applied towards that? In which case?
That is something that we're going to be looking at when we do a road. Most likely, depending on funding and everything, we're going to camera the pipes, and if we find that really at this point in time, if you go over a road, we should be changing the pipes out. From the galvanized to the plastic, that pipe now is good for how many years? 150, 75?
I don't even think they have a lifespan on it.
Yeah.
So then, it just brings me back to the warrant article we've been seeing for, the past several years, that maybe we should reconsider whether or not we put the 200 grand in highway improvements, road improvements on, because you could tie in some of these pipes.
We have been finding.
I like that warrant article. That's one I routinely vote yes on. So I would like to see it again, so I could again vote yes.
I think we have a lot of streets where it's obvious that the pipes are a serious problem. And, we're not paving, and I skipped over those because I know that I got to dig them up. Nessun was one of them.
Right.
We only skim coated that. We got a lot of pipe in there that have some serious problems.
Okay, next line, I see an increase for vehicle fuel, $1,000. This is based on our run rate and an estimated cost of diesel at $2.75 a gallon. So the price we budgeted last year was $2.75 a gallon. That hasn't changed. It really is the estimated usage. Vehicle maintenance, you'll see Jack has asked this year to increase this line. It's due to the aging fleet. We don't know. We have a warrant article, as you know, to replace one of the plow trucks. But you have to understand, just like you hear from the chief of police, that, you know, if we're able to get the funding for the plow truck, you know, we are still going to be plowing with the old truck all winter. And we probably will be receiving the new plow truck sometime about this time next year. You'll have to order it, it needs to be fitted up, and you'll get it probably about October. Sometimes it's November. And we're really concerned about the condition of our equipment. So that's why you see a request for additional funding in equipment maintenance.
Oh, jeez. Sawhorses, not horses. We don't have, because next you see a stable, being put on like a warrant article to build a stable.
Sand purchases, sand, you see an increase here, $2,500. Trying to get, Jack is really trying to get this line up to the $5,500 that he's requesting. You know, we're doing our best to use the sand and salt mixture when we can for the right type of storm event. And when we run when we're running low on salt, this is what saves us. We really have to cut back and mix it with the sand. Last year, I think you ran out.
We did.
Pretty
It was
early.
the salt and the sand that
Yeah.
carried us through to January, so it's kind of important.
And I don't know how you do it, Jack, but I mean, you were telling me how you really like to get it purchased ahead of time. You get it undercover because you want it dry.
We pre-mix it, so it's, you
Pre-mix
know,
it, yeah.
now's the time I should be buying salt. I mean sand. Salt I have plenty of. We mix it to a 3-to-1 ratio, so, you know, 1 bucket of salt to 3 buckets of sand. And when we mix it, you know, it takes a while to get all that mixed, you know. But it cuts down on our use of salt tremendously. Last year, to get to January 1st, we used all of our sand money and used what little salt we had left and mixed it and got us to January 1st. I had a lot of sleepless nights because there was no salt.
And then the next budget, salt, sand and salt, right? New England. So unfortunately, we did have an increase this year. The state bid price, the cost per ton has increased from $52.47 to $54 per ton. So you've got an increase in the cost of salt, and also based on our experience, we believe we need about 1,800 tons of salt, an allocation of 1,800 tons of salt per year.
Is that an increase?
I think it's an increase.
It's about 400 ton increase.
Yeah, I thought we had 1,200 before, yeah.
I think we should explain what's happened, and then everybody can really understand.
Seems like we had a lot
The
more
year
ice.
we had that real bad snow, we used all our salt, all our money, plus. We have never recovered back from that. We have no, you know, put away somewhere where I used to have one building was filled with salt. When I got short, I could go over there and get, you know, 80 tons if I needed it. I can't do that. I don't have it anymore. And then last year's sand money was pretty low, as it is this year. I don't have anything, I have no money to buy these things.
Yep.
If any lines get funded, those are the ones that have to be funded.
Is this enough to get you back to get that? those
Just so I
buildings?
can get back to where I was, and then we'll be fine, because we may not get another year like that for the next 10 years.
So if we're trying, if it's like a one-time thing to get us back to where we're going, why not? I'm going to utter those words that you hate to hear me say.
Encumber?
Warrant article.
Warrant?
Let's say we refill those special funds for emergency funds. We refill all this other stuff. It's the same situation, right? We have this emergency fund of salt. We've used it up. We've expended it. Let's refill it.
So if they say no, can we get?
Well,
can we
you
get
put
more
extra,
salt?
like,
No,
to-
you gotta be really careful.
It's how you
do it, though.
reword
That's
it.
what I'm saying. I
If
get
you would-
it, but this is
Who's
something
gonna-
you need.
Who's gonna say no to that? I mean,
Well,
Listen,
you'd be
you never,
surprised.
you would be surprised.
But if you
Surprise.
word it
That's
such
it.
that you want to replenish like your extra stock, you know, there's got to be, we have lawyers, town
Careful of the
lawyers.
word extra in a warrant article.
Yeah.
We have lawyers who get paid lots of money. Look at what it's in the budget. So they can craft it in such a way, but if we consider the salt shed, extra salt shed as a emergency, like surplus fund, why wouldn't we replenish it after we've tapped into it? There's got to be a way, because let's face it, like you've said, this budget could either be very easy to do or very difficult because we're over the tax cap. So if we slash it, poor Jack's might not have the money anyway. But if we put it such that people can vote for salt in New England,
so there's a hyperlink to salt usage and cost. So based on that chart, I would say 1,800 is the right number.
Yeah.
In 2013, we did 1,743. 2014, we did 1,765. 2015, we did 1,837. 2016, 1,496. And so far to date, we're over 1,500. So I would say 1,800 sounds like the right number. It's not excessive, it's not...
even if we don't have a lot of snow, we've had a lot of ice in the past couple of years. And I know it's been dicey at the end of my street. So, you know, it's one of those.
Last winter was brutal.
And if you click on the hyperlink, 2016, if you remember, we didn't get a lot of snow. That was
Well, we had a minor.
that was
really
the
big-
whole, part of the whole drought, thing. And we still used 1,500 tons of salt.
And all our trucks are computerized now. So we really have, the advantage of being able to monitor what's going out. And we monitor it. It comes in on their pay sheets. When they put their hourly sheet in, they have how many loads they took out, how many tons they used, and what they used. Did they use sand? Did they use salt? So, I mean, we got a good handle on it. We really do.
Do we have any information about how much the increase, like this year, it's up from 52.47 to 54. Has it traditionally been going up year after year after year?
Well, that hyperlink had some pricing.
Yeah, it's been pretty stable for 2015, 16, and 17. They didn't
also-
raise it at
Yeah,
all.
really
So this
good.
is the
I think it's
first
the
raise
first
since
time it's gone up in the
2014.
last 2 or 3 years.
But I think too, it depends on time of year, right? Like if you buy it now versus you buy it in like in
State
December.
bid.
Really?
Yeah, it's the same number.
Email was sent to you with all your instructions.
I didn't get it. I'll just have to check my.
I signed up with all the
It's just
salt
me, but, like,
manufacturers.
my hyperlink for this particular one doesn't work.
It don't
I
work?
thought it went to a Gmail.
So yes, I had to ask permission to
Yeah,
get
I
on
just
there the
did.
other day. So for whatever reason, it's,
'Cause it should be
it may
shared
not
with
be.
the-
More info that goes to the drive and you can't.
So
I
I
don't
assumed
have
when he
access.
approved me,
What
it
date did
opened
you
it up for everybody, but.
Share
Sorry,
with- I just share with-
Oh, it's in the budget itself. Like there's probably a link to the budget and there's some lines in
Yeah, it
there.
would have come from Hostmaster probably, or Domain Administrator, from litchfieldnh.gov.
So when you go
Alright,
into the
sorry.
budgets, there's a little thing that says more info. Usually that links to a hyperlink to the Google Drive.
So that one, the other day when I,
Right, so it was, I thought it was shared, and it's not. So I did just open up share.
okay, so he just opened
So
it,
you're one
okay.
of the cool kids.
It's some-
Nice accent.
it may-
I asked the other day, I was prepping.
If you ever get that, and it says, hey, this isn't shared with you, hits it, request.
Yes.
So it'll prompt me to go in and make sure it's shared with everyone. Because I share it with everyone on the website, because this budget is on the website, and anyone can
What
see
I would
it.
suggest is, on these ones here,
Yeah.
because we're looking at budget, even the budget, publicly share it as long as they have the URL. If they have the URL, they can go look at it.
Okay, because that's what I do, yeah, I share it with the public on the web.
Okay. And then that URL should be what you send out, then they should not have to ask for permission.
Look at
Now
you.
I'm
You're
in.
one of the cool kids.
No, I'm only cool because Troy decided I was cool tonight. Or John, one of these two let me
I didn't
in.
do
All
anything.
right, so we all set with salt, can we move on?
Okay, start sharing here. I think that was the last increase that we had. So,
Did you find Julie?
So I had an observation when I was going through this the other day. At the top, 120 wages workmen. It looks as though we were, in 2014, the request was $90,000. It looks as though in 2016, we must have added a position or added hours because it bumps up to 112, then it bumps up to 116, and this year's 122. So it looks as though we've added hours and stuff. So then coincidentally, when I look at overtime, 2014, we were almost at 14,000. 2015, we're about 13,000. So then 2016, when it appears we added hours or a position, overtime drops way down. And year-to-date, it's also way down. So it looks as though, as we've added people and time, overtime has dropped as one would expect. So I would just say that that's an area I'm going to be taking a look at, is overtime.
I will let you know that the reason that occurred was that our part-time employee, over the last couple years, maybe as much as 3, the last 2, due to, was available to work for us during the day. He was not available to work at night. So that's where the overtime was. Now that person has left, and we are beginning the recruitment for a new person. And we fully expect this person during the interview to make sure that they understand that during snow events, they are in the plow truck plowing along with Jack. So Jack's not there by himself.
Right.
And that's the way it's been going for the last 2 years. Jack has been out there cutting trees, moving them onto the road by himself. This part-time person should be out there getting paid overtime to be there to help him, and just for, safety purposes. So that's why you saw that drop, and we were just really trying to accommodate the person that held the position.
So what you're telling me is the drop is because we kind of had somebody volunteering to do it and not because we had additional people out there.
No, we didn't have any.
He didn't volunteer, he just stopped doing it. He
He only
stopped
worked during the
working
day.
night. He couldn't physically, he could only work during the day.
Wouldn't your proposal, if we're getting someone, wouldn't that reduce overtime and not increase it then?
Well, if they're
No,
doing
the
night
person
work,
would still work 32 hours, so ideally, the equipment operator should be working 32 hours a week for us. Monday through Thursday would be their schedule. But also available to work overtime, and it could be on a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday, any time
Through
during the week.
storms, any
Yes,
storm.
so I'm not saying do away with overtime. I'm saying in 2016, when we saw wages go from 90 to 113, we saw a drop in overtime, which I think is good, because that means you brought on a person, now you don't need to pay people overtime as much. Not that you would do away with it, but as much. So I see that corresponding drop, and it carries on to the following
It
year.
had a lot to do with the snowfall for that year. We had a bad year, but they fell on weekends, and he wasn't available.
So that's, yeah. So I'll just, that's a
Yeah.
place that I'm gonna take a look at, so
Okay.
just so you all know, that's a trend I saw.
And so just remember, for the last 2 years, the part-time person that held that position could not work overtime. And that's why you saw,
How'd the work
that's
get
why
done,
you
though?
had the drop.
But the
What's
work still got done though, didn't it? I think is what Cindy's.
We
wanting
had to
do.
use the contracted drivers. So we're paying,
We kept the
$45
contractor
an
over.
hour to have someone
So
drive the
you'll
truck.
see that the contract price was higher.
Did we hire a new equipment operator, or is it the same person?
Not yet.
It's vacant, the position is vacant right now.
Wasn't it vacant last year?
No, it was filled last year.
Just to your note on raises, that's an 11.7% increase year over year for that position, which is not the 3%.
For the equipment out there?
Yeah. That's why I was curious if it was a new person.
35 to 39.
about $2.50 per hour increase.
So is equipment operator like people who plow, or?
They operate
Like bobcats
a
and
big
stuff.
loader, 924, a backhoe.
Oh.
They load salt during storms.
They're the
They'll
ones that
drive
get-
plow truck with a wing.
The heavier equipment.
That's all heavy equipment.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if the figure in 2017 was correct. But the formula that we have for 2018 for the part-time operator is at $23.50 an hour, 32 hours a week, 52 weeks out of the year. That's where the 39,104 comes from, and the individual, he was at the maximum pay rate for the last couple of years, so he did not receive a pay raise. But I think that we probably caught that the $35,011 was incorrect.
Well, the total of 116,630 matches with what's in the budget report we just got, so if the 35 is incorrect, then at least one of the other two numbers is incorrect as well.
Well, 35 is based on 2104 an hour.
You got a formula in that?
Yeah, you have a formula.
Yeah. That's not what he was paid last year, but.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I think that increase happened when we did the first year implementation and brought him into the market wage. And it just didn't fall in the budget correctly when we did the budget last year. I have to go back in my notes, but that's what it sounds, that's what I feel, that's what I believe it is.
So it's 11% over 2 years, is what you're saying.
We market rated all of our employees and brought them into the market, right?
And
So yes, the first
just-
year potentially would have been that increase, correct?
It's no benefits or anything, they're just part-time employees, right?
They get 32 hours, they don't.
So
No
they
benefits,
no
no.
benefits, no nothing, so
I
that's,
thought the town had a,
He qualifies for benefits, but they hadn't taken it.
Thank you.
so that
Right.
means that whoever you bring on for 32 could potentially.
So any other questions or comments for road maintenance? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to do police and rec?
Yeah, they're next.
Oh, yeah, I thought you had next.
Who wants to go next, police?
Looks like police is up.
I'll do it.
Please, please.
Perfect. The agenda I had that was published with some of the.
You're gonna have to do that one.
You can do it, I'll listen.
Oh, I can. Yeah, I wouldn't move.
I can.
Get up and go.
I'm not moving.
So I'm gonna take a rest now, and I'm gonna allow these two gentlemen to present their budgets.
All right.
I'd like to introduce Ben Sargent. He's our newly promoted captain. Good evening.
Morning.
Welcome.
Like,
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you
Morning.
just say morning?
yes, I did. Apparently on Australian time. Don't know why.
Just want to run through, give us an overview of what's going on.
Sure. When we hit the salaries, 110, 111, that is, those are all contracts. PD 120, the administrative assistant, that comes from the town salary plan. 125 is special officers there under the union contract. The PD overtime wages, what we do is we take each section of officer, if it's a master patrolman, a corporal, a sergeant, we figure out the hours that they work and we break it into those ranks. And we deduct 10% for if an officer's working day shift, then he wouldn't be getting overtime. We wouldn't fill that with overtime. So there's a 10% reduction like we've done in the past years with that. PD wages with the captain overtime, that's a contract with the captain, with the selectmen. PD overtime court, That's also contractual, and we did the same formula with the overtime. We based it upon historical numbers with the sergeants, corporals, master patrolmen, and the patrol officers.
So we, budget, so there's a note that the budget committee reduced that last year. That was one of the places we took a reduction. So far, year to date, there's a little under 2,500 spent. What's been the impact of that reduction? Have you seen any impact, or?
Hold on one
Cindy, I
second.
think that reduction was in 2016. It's in the spreadsheet, though.
Yeah, there's something under 2017.
You're right, it was part of 2017. So then why, because the increase is almost that amount, so that's what made me mistake that for a current reduction. Why the increase of $4,000?
We do have an additional officer from the warrant article. We have a number of new patrol officers, very active group of officers out there. So that increases the amount of arrests, the amount of tickets, the amount of enforcement, and the amount of court time goes along with that.
So how often does that get reconciled? Because like I said, year-to-date, it's under $2,500 for, almost $10,000 of a budget. So have the hours not been put in yet, or like why in October we have spent so little?
I think one key contributor would be the fact that we have been short-staffed. Currently, our two newest officers are away at the police academy. We're seeing certain shifts covered by a sergeant, a captain, and myself, so I might have other responsibilities that I'll be taking care of as opposed to a patrol officer who would be conducted more proactive assignments, directed patrols and whatnot. I think that's something to be considered. In this instance, typically when we've seen officers, when they come out of the police academy, they're highly motivated, they're ready to apply the skill sets that they've learned and get out there and be proactive and also be reactive to things. So we would typically see a trend of more court time. There's more paperwork, there's more warrants being applied for, search warrants. And sometimes with new officers, there's a training curve to it. So something that a senior officer might have handled a certain case, there wouldn't be suppression issues or whatnot. So there's a learning curve that comes with a little court overtime. So that would be something to consider.
We are 4 officers short right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2 are in the academy, 1's in the military, and we're looking to fill a position right now.
Will you be adding an officer at least to come into the schools and have a presence in our school like we used to have here? Or like even a community outreach?
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm saying? Like Officer Coral used to have an
Yes.
office here?
Correct.
Is that in the plan?
That is in the plan to have him come back.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. No, he does a great job. Absolutely does.
And I don't want to say, he knows the students, he knows the town, and he's just that extra person in here that he really made a difference.
absolutely.
And his absence has been missed in the school.
Absolutely. He's missed within the department also.
All right, so overtime training stays the same.
Yeah. Uniform allowance, that's contracts. Community detail, that's what you guys accepted last year that we were spending. We did deduct that $3,000. We noticed we didn't need that much money.
Thank you.
The way we're trending. The insurances, those are all delegated by the town. John handles our software and support. Those are all contracts that we have with our IMC and WatchGuard and all the stuff that keeps us running.
Can you just back up 1 second?
Sure.
You probably don't have the answer, Troy, but maybe for next time. How many police officers actually take the health insurance?
I can get that answer to you. want to move on, I can.
No, that's fine, yeah, I don't want to
have
wait.
Yeah, I can.
I don't want to wait. Thank you.
General supplies have stayed the same. There's a slight increase in the PD office supplies. Some of the chairs need to get replaced. We have a table that needs to be replaced. It's been there for 20 years. You'll notice in PD equipment maintenance is the contract for the copier. We're looking at a new copier this year because they're no longer going to service that. So the town side and our side.
So, I'm sorry, just to back up, did I miss the pre-employment screening increase from $600 to $2,200? Or did we not get there yet? I feel like I'm...
No, I'm sorry, I did go over that. We are currently in the process of trying to hire somebody right now. We're going to be asking for a warrant article for a new officer that we discussed last year. And I can go more into the warrant article when we finish that, as to how we came up with some of the numbers that we came up with.
Okay.
Well, wouldn't the pre-employment screening be part of the warrant article?
No, it's salary and benefits.
But even still, though, why, if we're hiring one potentially, or I guess two, right, because you have an open spot, why would it more than, I don't know, almost quadruple?
It's the cost of the testing. It's the cost of doing the background checks. That also has the psychological and medical physicals. We were never capturing that before.
So can the detail just be updated to reflect that? Because it says right now 12 at 50, which would be $600, right? And the actual budget is, I mean, I know it's not all that much, but it's $2,200, so it's a $1,600 increase, and it doesn't necessarily reflect in the detail what that increase would be for.
Yeah, in 350, under that, it says test, I'm sorry, tough to see with my glasses. We did add in the medical, physical, psychological testing.
Right, but then it says in random drug screenings, 12 at $50. So I think if we had a better idea of like what it costs to actually do the whole enhanced background check or whatever it is, that'd be easier. Because right now, like Jen's saying, the notes don't necessarily support the number.
Sure. I know the psychologicals are around $350.
You polygraph?
Yeah, that's a lot.
We don't. we leave that as an option.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, right.
For Hudson will do it for us, Londonderry will do it, and they won't charge us because they have to do so many per year.
So do you normally polygraph or no?
No.
I would encourage, if you can do it, to put that, any cost that's coming with the new officer into the warrant article, because if you put it in the budget and you don't get it, it's money that's going to get spent.
Well, it's true, because it's tied to the
To the new whatever the piece is for the new officer, if it's, $600 or $1,000 or whatever that is, it would make sense to me to put that all in the warrant article to capture that cost.
Just drain a little bit out of the budget.
It does make sense. I don't know that it's been done in the past,
Yeah, I
but
don't
certainly any additional
The cost of adding the position.
It's a one-time cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like it's year over year,
The vacant.
unless if you continuously test them throughout every
We
year.
don't.
It's just
No.
that one time.
That's at one time.
So,
Yeah, it's the cost of adding the position.
Right.
Dennis,
So
we
I think it'd
have,
make Troy's job a little easier if we can just lead off a couple $100.
so we have 9 officers that elect health insurance.
Okay.
One of those 9 is the vacant position right now, so I'm still carrying that as.
Okay.
Placeholder.
Yeah.
How many police officers do we have?
We have 12.
12, and you want one more?
Yes.
And there are 4 vacant?
No,
Okay.
there's 2 in the academy,
Oh.
one's in military, and we're trying to fill 1 position.
Got it.
So really one that's not
One real
really.
vacancy.
Because once they come out of the academy, they're ours, right? So.
Yeah,
you don't,
well,
you
then
don't, you
there's-
don't see
I've already
any
met some of
payback
them
for probably
in Albuquerque.
6 months to a year.
But one's been in training for a while, right? So hopefully he'll
They
come out
both
soon.
just went to training.
Oh, they just went in?
Both graduate in
We
December.
were able to get one that was certified, part-time certified. So he was able to go on the road. After he did his 12 weeks with us, he was able to go on the road by himself. So it saved us some money there. But then the academy tells you when guys are going to the academy. We don't pick it. So they took both of them, and then when we lost an officer, and then we had one go into the military, I mean, it really hurt us. You know, we're a 12-man agency, and we lost a quarter of our guys. So you'll see the overtime and, you know, but the part-timers have stepped up and, you know, filled in those positions. So you'll see the overtime budget down to about 18%. But for the, part-time position, which is good, that means that the part-timers are picking up those hours.
Yeah.
PD vehicles and repair, that went up because the price of the tires went up $50 a tire. And that's state bid. We used to get them for about $100, $105. Now they're $150.
Oh, that's for us.
Yeah, tires stink.
Uniforms and accessories, that's contractual. The PD ammunition, that stayed the same. PD equipment purchases, there's a couple items there. The bulletproof vest, there's 3 that are due this coming up year, and that's per contract. Our dispatch console, we had that go down. We had to have a company come out. They replaced it with a portable, basically a portable radio system. Went to fix that. They no longer have parts, so they had to take parts from old radios and put it together. They said that they, you know, if it goes down again, then we don't have communications at our place. So we got prices. The price from Motorola is the $11,033. Like I said, the new copier, fax machine, that's essential for us to run our operations. That's where we get all of our domestic and restraining orders and stuff like that comes over through fax. Portable radio charging station, the one that we have is several years old and it doesn't work. You know, half of the stations in it don't work. The new one will allow us to use, we have 3 different radio systems, portables. It'll charge all 3 of those without having to get 3 separate stations. In addition is the portable jump packs. We end up going out to where people's cars don't start and they need to get jumped and stuff like that. If we run it off of our cruiser, it'll blow out your radio, and those are $4,000 or $5,000. So we don't do. So we go out. We have the small little jump packs and just have them in the cruiser so we can start people's cars for them.
It's a very nice service.
It is. The advantage of being a small town.
I know.
Yeah.
I thought you were using them to get the car started, because that's what we do.
That's what I thought.
That's at our station.
That's what we used to have to do.
We go out and start it, and that's how we start our shift. That's no joke.
No, it is.
You'll see it sitting there, and you're like, all right, run it, don't turn it off.
Don't turn it off. Just
Yeah.
make sure it's charged.
Have your AAA card ready.
Then the cruiser purchase, like I told you guys before, if we got the 2 cars last year, this year I'd only ask for 1. So that's what we're doing. We'll put the rest, a car with 95,000 miles. That'll go into the detail. That makes us, was it $15 an hour? So,
Where does that money go, that $15 an hour?
Goes into the special detail revolving fund. And so then that's used, we have an agreement with the union, on the union contract, where we supplement their 457 contributions. So we'll use some of that money for that. And then we have administrative costs for administering the fund, vehicle fuel, and maintenance.
right. For those particular cars, the detail cars.
Just the
Yeah.
Do you have a breakdown of that? Because that'd be interesting to see. I mean, they've had a big year, and those cruisers have been on every corner of the street. I'd be interested to see.
I can get it to you.
Yeah, if we could.
Yeah. Okay.
So Chief, you have $45,000 in the budget, but we've spent over $100,000 on 2 cruisers this year?
Yeah. Some of that is grant money that's coming back. For the printers that were put in the cruisers, we had a laptop that we had to purchase for it, the camera system for the cruiser.
It was probably $11,000 worth of
Yeah.
equipment that wasn't funded correctly.
So So the 45,000 is a good number?
Yes.
Okay, that was really what I was driving at.
Sure, yep.
Because this cruiser is going to be all switched out, not
Yes.
anything new, it's not going in there.
Okay.
So our fleet is 5. So now we have the ability to keep the miles lower on the cruisers, to give more life to them. That way we can do the 2-1, 2-1, like we've done in the past.
And that's an SUV again?
Yeah, same one, yeah. The difference between the SUV and the sedan was $1,700.
No, I'm not, I'm just saying,
yeah.
it would seem to make sense to have a consistency within the fleet.
Every single one of our cruisers are they're done up the exact same way. Where the button is for the shotgun, where the button is for the lights, everything is identical in every single cruiser.
Yeah, the cruise is tested for the CO2 issue?
Yes, we actually have the...
You have the sensors?
Yes.
Okay, good.
We have them in all the cars.
Very good.
Yeah.
Any activations?
No, no. The company that we went to a couple years ago, they showed me how they do the installations. Some of the companies were taking like the rubber grommets out of the vehicles, and the gas was the vapors were seeping up into the cargo units.
Yeah.
So the company that we went to, they showed me, they do take a slit, they put the wire through it, then they reseal it, so that you don't have that problem. But,
This seems like such a simple thing to do. Why wouldn't you
It's
do
all
that?
about saving time, apparently.
Yes.
Well, when they're doing thousands of cars too, they're just trying to get them in, get them
Saving
out.
10 minutes or 5 minutes.
That just seems so stupid.
And after it leaves, they're done.
They don't care. All right. Any other questions there? All right.
Well, actually, I'm sorry, I do have another one. So you're at 16,000 already on seminars and conventions this year? Versus
You have to look at that number with the training number, which is 10,149. Because that is a payroll item, it can't come out of that. So what we do is we've been doing for the past few years is there's only, how much is in seminars right now?
7,350.
7,300. So that'll pay for like 2 classes. So the real budget is is actually captured in the salary one, the 35,000.
The training?
Yeah, PD OT training is actually where so we overspend the other line, but keep it in line with the 149. It's one of those things that happened years ago, and it just kind of stayed the same.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, moving on to police support.
I'll let Ben do this.
Yeah, thank you. So for police support, your 110, the PD wages for your full-time dispatchers, again, that's contractual. They're members of the local union. You will see for the dispatch coverage, a increase in their overtime as these full-time employees are willing to cover various shifts when there's vacations or absences from the dispatch. The Hillsborough County is very supportive of our agency and our dispatching functions, as oftentimes they'll assist us in covering certain hours and we don't have to backfill with some overtime. Under line item 140, PD overtime for dispatcher, you'll see a reduction in just over $3,000, and that's we'll no longer be using a part-time dispatcher. Those hours will be covered through Hillsborough County or your full-time dispatchers. Again, our the uniform allowance contractual, and as we get into the health insurance and dental insurance, that's in accordance with the town's policy. Again, our accessory is contractual, And again, this year, our dispatch service through Hillsborough County will remain the same.
So on the health insurance, did we have somebody who elected to change different coverage? Because that's more than a 10% increase.
Yeah, the prior employees that, when you put together this budget last year, you had
They both retired.
They both retired,
same
and they're
time.
both single plans, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they were.
So now we have somebody new who's needs,
Taking the full insurance.
that has elected
Yeah.
it.
The cleaning charge for the uniforms for the dispatcher,
That dropped,
it's $400 per person?
$250.
That's their clothing allowance.
Oh, that's a clothing
That's
allowance.
a clothing allowance.
Okay.
Not a dry cleaning allowance.
It says cleaning per.
And
Yeah.
the union did negotiate, that was higher in this new contract that was negotiated down from $500 to $250, which allows them to get, whether it be polo shirts, khaki pants, or whatever the appropriate uniform is. So each full-time officer gets $250.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
So I don't know if the question's for you, Captain, or for Troy. 49 for the second dispatcher in 2016 was 49,256. In 17 is 42,157. And then in 18 goes to 59,704. I'm just curious what happened there.
Different dispatchers, I guess, right? That was when the original dispatchers were there.
Yeah.
And then this dispatcher took over that shift, or took over that role.
So in this case, that person started in 17,
Mm-hmm.
and it was only filled part of the year, maybe?
Dispatcher Boda came with over 20 years of experience, is that?
Yeah, he did.
And so he replaced, he was working for us part-time, he was helping cover shift coverage, and I forget what month he came on with us full-time, but he did come in at a higher rate for experienced dispatcher, so I believe this year's budget would be lower because he was not paid the full year, am I correct, Chief?
Right.
And then our numbers for next year would represent a full year working in dispatch, full-time, at his current salary.
Any other questions? All right, so animal control looks like it's next. 4414.1.
Yep. You'll see a change in 128, and the reason for that is Jerry's been with us, I want to say 20 years, and he has not received a salary increase. We look back since 1998, he has not received a single increase at all.
Which number
So
are we
it's-
on?
4414.
Animal control.
Animal control, yeah.
Sorry, Chief.
So, just out of curiosity, how did you come up with,
What we did is we took, my captain, took 3 different agencies. We looked at Hudson Police, Merrimack Police, and Londonderry Police.
perfect.
And then we looked at the town, the personnel policy with where the salaries start, the salary ranges.
Cool.
How many hours is that position, or is it a stipend?
It's a stipend. When he started out, I think we had 400 dogs in town. Now we have over 1,800. So,
Wow.
yeah, he's busy, and he comes out
You could
when there's
fund that out
dog
of the
bites and
license
stuff like
fees.
that.
Yeah, why don't we?
You know, he takes the animals, up to, have them examined for rabies and stuff like that. He's very, very attentive to that. He does all of the court stuff for us, filing the paperwork for court.
Thinking after 19 years, he probably deserves a raise.
Yeah.
But how is that consistent with what we've done in the past, though, with raises?
We haven't gotten
This is a
any.
Well, I
stipend,
think
though. It's a stipend.
And I think their comparison is accurate comparing to.
I'm not
the
saying it's
local
not, but
meetings.
Consistency. Like, it always goes before the voters, is this any, but if it's a stipend, I
Yeah.
guess
And if we were looking at an average of 20 years of not having one, it could be higher.
Again, policy, 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 policy. So,
All right, any other questions on animal control? All right, I think that's all for you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming.
you. We had the warrant article, I don't know if you
Oh,
would
yes, you
wanna
were,
go through
yes, you
that?
were gonna tell us about the warrant
Sure.
article, please.
When we spoke before, the officer last year passed, so that brings us to the two-man 24 hours, really covering that, and knowing that if we bring another officer on board, that's going to tackle the overtime issues that we have. So we did a couple things. We looked at, spoke to some subject matter experts in how are we going to save money. How do you show that? How do you relate that to the board? Because it's really tough. We all sat down as a team, and we were looking at our schedules and how many shifts overlap. Where if we could use that officer, we could save just in not covering overlapping shifts about $50,000.
Wow.
In benefits, that's $14,000 just in retirement. So at a minimum, we're looking at $65,000
Which
that we would
is-
save.
What, 2/3 of the cost?
Yeah.
So it's-
So
For-
$65,000 off the bottom line for next year.
Well, the year after.
For the
it's
year
implemented.
after, because we'd have to get the
2019.
officer.
Right,
Yes.
right,
Yeah.
So for those skeptics like me, I would definitely highlight that in your presentation, because when you're saying, oh, well, net thing is it's 13, 20, or 20 grand, it's more palatable. So, just as you present it.
And I'm bringing in as low number as I can. I'm hoping that it's going to be more than that.
I'd rather you undersell the savings and then surprise us.
Right.
But I think it helps make it more, especially when you consider what's going to be on the warrant articles that we're facing.
Sure.
When we start talking about, no, but this is actually going to be a net benefit.
Yes.
It makes it a little easier to take in.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Be safe.
Thank you. Likewise.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
So where are we at?
Oh, yeah, she can put
It looks like we're at Parks and Recreation. $4520.10.
Thanks.
You want me to go through it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You're just here for backup.
Okay, so for, well, you have Parks and Recreation, account number 4520. You have a little increase there in the custodian wages. That is a direct result of the performance review this year, so that's the increase that the individual received. Electricity's up $150, just based on our Excel spreadsheet. They're trying to capture the cost. Propane up $620, and that's directly part of the increase in the cost. The chemical toilet rental, I would say the $1,384, we have added, did we put Jeff Lane in there? So Jeff Lane would have been added, and just really capturing the real cost now of portable toilets. It's changing on me every year. They either get left there another extra month, or they.
So Dare Pond is there 12 months, so in January, when it's 20 below zero, we really have a porta potty out there?
We keep it there for, we keep it there 12 months, is my understanding, so you have different winter activities going on.
Mm.
Interesting. So,
It's the only field that we keep the porta potty in year round.
so I don't really know, porta potties don't freeze apparently?
No.
They use the winter,
They'll get-
the winter antifreeze in them, yeah.
There's no-
The porta potty itself does not.
I just,
It's all natural, though. Don't worry, it's all natural.
I just
GMO.
never thought about in
Compost.
January
Yeah.
using a porta potty.
Self-heating.
Try to.
Yeah.
Now,
You
just so
gotta go, Cindy, you gotta go, okay?
Now, if you're riding around this winter, because you're on the budget committee, and you hear this presentation, then you're riding around and you're gonna see some of these portable toilets still laying around at some of these fields. We have found that it's cheaper for us, and the vendor is agreeable to just leave them there. There's no charge, and that way we don't pay a fee to pick them up and a fee in the spring to deliver them again. So you will see them there year-round, but we only
But
rent.
don't use it.
Don't
We're
use
not
it.
paying for it. Just kidding.
No, use it, just beware. Beware of what you see inside.
Nobody's using it.
That's right.
I haven't heard anything
So why don't we just do that at Derek?
Rock 'em, huh?
on the Facebook page.
I'm under the impression they clean them out and they seal them, but that may
Yeah.
not be what's
They
going on.
do winterize it.
Yeah, they have to
don't-
winterize it, well, that springtime's gonna be a real bad situation.
So much more information I need to know in my life. So, I was looking at the spend rate, and we've only spent about $1,800. So, I mean, assuming.
Are we gonna ask
there's
why?
one that. Yeah. Are we still
Yes.
porta potties?
Doesn't this have to?
Because there's only a couple more months left in the year, so.
Didn't other,
There are, some of the porta potties are not being expended through our budget. The baseball organization has been paying for the Corning Road and Jeff Lane.
Oh.
So those are jumping back on board
and same with soccer,
for the
right?
first time.
Okay.
The other organizations all approached us over the years and said, how come we're paying for them? And we took that expense underneath. Baseball hadn't until this year.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not putting that stuff.
So, enough about the porta potties.
I bet they have an emoji for that. You just got that, didn't you?
Jen?
I don't know, this might not be appropriate of me to ask this question, but how come?
After where you just went, you're worried.
No, I just wonder why the Parks and Rec isn't asking for more money to like finish up Jeff Lane. Like,
Jeff Lane is under impact fees.
got it, okay,
Impact fees and fundraising.
got it.
Did you buy a brick?
No.
And donations.
They're very
All right,
affordable.
well,
Lots of-
listen.
They are.
Continental.
I'm gonna have bricks everywhere in Litchfield.
Donate a lot of in-kind.
We try to
services.
use donated funds wherever we can, impact fees wherever we can. Basketball courts resurfaced this year, completely donated.
Yeah, I know.
So
I think that's awesome.
That's our, the whole group that we have, that's our focus every year. Our budget is usually pretty minimal. I think it's gone down from, over the last 10 years, it's lower than it was 10 years ago right now.
And
I'm
that's
just
a
saying-
good thing to broadcast, is how much the community has donated and chipped in and reduced the cost.
Constantly.
I think I saw something about the basketball
I
courts
did.
on the WhatsApp page or
Yeah,
one
it
of
was
those.
on, it was on the
Oh, that's
Facebook.
true.
Yeah.
So where is the resurfacing of that?
We put it on our Facebook page, we put the stuff in the annual town meeting book, some people ask us not to say who it
Right.
is, but
Right.
we do put out there that there's donated items and where we're getting things. Are you going to update them on where we stand with?
Well, that's, yeah, so I was just gonna mention that so there's two things that are outstanding and.
Two things that are outstanding with us right now. Our RFP went out and we got back 2 bids, which we opened Tuesday. We're not voting on those 2 bids till a week from this Tuesday. That will change the amount that's in the account right now for field maintenance.
So those are,
From where we
okay,
vote.
so the field maintenance ones, okay.
Up or down?
Can you keep the same people?
What's the it's gonna go up.
Your range, well, I understood your range
Yeah,
was
for
it
soccer
43,000 to 50,000?
Correct.
They're amazing.
And right now you have 46,500.
Correct.
That's all.
So,
So if they go with the
I
lower.
thought you meant it was going up that much, Troy.
All right, so that's
They
important to
received
know.
2
Can you
bids, one was 43,000, one was 50.
Wow.
However,
I,
they don't decide, it doesn't mean they go with a low bid, they're gonna be
Thank you.
interviewing both bidders and,
Because usually sometimes the low bid ends up costing you more once you do all the changes.
we did that a few years
Carrie,
ago.
what did you just say?
Sometimes the low bid is not the price. I have never been an advocate of going low bid.
We go over
Warrant articles,
we go over both
okay.
bids that we received based on historically doing commercial landscaping and
Right.
what they put in their bids. That'll all be reviewed publicly in a week and a half. The second item we have out there After resurfacing the basketball courts, we have an expense. It's a one-time expense like we did with the tennis courts a number of years ago. We need to surface that and seal it. We got a bid in just under $10,000 to give which was a great number coming in for us. We thought it was going to be in the 20s. And we'll get bids once we know it's in our budget. The commission voted to put $10,000 in the budget and then shoot below that. The $9,300 that came in was for a one-line painting. We think we're looking at two-line paintings, which adds another $500 to it. So we're right in that range for where Vermont came in. And then we'll put it out to two other, or at least two other people that Troy tracked down for us to actually do that work.
So that will be added to this budget? 'Cause I don't normally see it.
That was not in the budget when I met with the selectmen. We talked about it. We said we'd add it in as soon as we had a number. I'm not sure. I don't think it's in there right now.
I thought we put a placeholder in, like some number, like 24,000.
I don't see it.
We put a memo in there somewhere, I thought.
Yeah, I thought we actually put it in for like 24, maybe we took it out.
We discussed 24,000, but then
So
We
is
pulled it out because
that,
we didn't have a bid.
so is that field improvement capital outlay? Is it equipment person, like where would that fall? Or is that field maintenance, additional field maintenance?
I think we put it in field maintenance last time we did this. It's only the second time we've had one, so.
But I think that's the contract, isn't it?
So the moral of the field maintenance line is, it's gonna go up by at least 10,000.
Correct.
depending on what the
And as
contract
much as 14 would be the high end.
Oh,
right?
the bids, so.
If we accepted the $50,000 bid, that would be $4,000 over what we're currently going.
Yes, okay.
So this is draft pending scoping out your landscaper and figuring out what your resurfacing is.
Correct.
So we'll wait Monday night to find out your meeting when you.
A week from Tuesday.
A week from Tuesday. But the field improvement capital outlay, you have $5,000 that repairs fields. Is that where you would put your resurfacing painting the basketball courts?
Whatever line you want to put it in, that's fine with me.
Yeah,
I think it's field maintenance, 650.
I think it's there.
But either way, I don't see it in here, so I think we need to add that.
Capital, I think it's, I don't know if it's capital or it's.
Yeah, I can figure that out. It's just not in here.
Okay.
Can't we
Alright.
just get a case of sidewalk chalk and have the people draw, just kidding. Draw their own lines before they start?
We did that this year. We went out, volunteers went out this year and drew lines on the court and put temporary lines down, but they won't last
No, I
more than a
know.
year. And the ceiling is something completely different.
Any other questions for Parks and Rec?
Thanks much.
You
Take
are
care.
great. Thank you, John.
No, this is.
All right. Information technology. 4150.2.
Where's Chris Pascucci when you're doing information technology?
I know.
You want to call him?
I do.
I know exactly where he zeroed in on.
What was the number, Cindy?
4150.2.
Do you want me to walk through it?
Yeah. I'll have John put on his other hat.
So, account 341, which is the data telephony, that's all of our internet services, wireless services, phone services, et cetera. It's at 33,640, an increase of 1540. That's based on run rate and service cost increases.
So can we update that, because it has $1,200 a month for Fairpoint voice fax services, which would be the 14.4. So I'd be curious as to where the extra $100 comes from.
It's run rate.
So then just delete the 1,200. Okay. It doesn't support the number.
And it's actually, the way I budget the data line, it's the bottom line of the data line, because it's a lot of offsets going on. Comcast costs me more in some cases, in certain locations, than it does in other places. So I look at that line as data services in general. It's, we
Perfect.
lumped it out that way to help
Just
understand.
delete the
cost.
1,200.
Hang on, I'll do it right now.
Very beautiful.
So the Verizon Wireless, those are cell phones that,
No, it's not cell phones per se.
Okay.
There is cell phones, obviously, but most of it is data wireless services for the police department, fire department. Also, we have a base station wireless system, too. So
Why wouldn't that be into the police department?
all IT costs were pulled out of the individual departments, because they're leveraged by all departments, right? So it's just, if I did that, you'd have four Verizon wireless bills. Our contract's really one big bill.
I know, it's just.
That's the way it was before. It's just, I'm the one that runs all the bills and stuff, so it just makes it cleaner that way.
yeah.
And it's not uncommon to have those kind of costs.
No, I understand, it's just when you're capturing the actual cost of the police department, usually you'd like to see all the costs. It's just, half, six one way, half dozen another, how you do it.
Yeah, the only thing from an IT perspective that's not within the IT budget that's department specific is department specific software, for example. That'll stay in their account, and I'll
Gotcha.
put it there. But for the most part, anything that can be shared, a lot of these services are shared, right? So in the town hall, we have Comcast broadband, but it's shared by the town hall employees, by the clerk, by the police department, by the fire department, so it's all the same service. Before, there used to be 4 in the town, so it's been reduced. So line 342, software support, that's an increase of $4,081. Most of the significant increase is based on the fact that this year, the town was a focus of a malware attack. As you probably read in the thing. We had no data loss. We had, we were able to stop it.
Equifax.
Yeah, we had no data loss or anything like that, but what ended up happening is we had to basically improve our ability to detect and to stop. So that's what most of that increase is from. Some of the services we use, like some of our off-site backup services, we're using more data, so it's costing more monthly for that. So that's pretty much that increase. One other note, our domain services, litchfieldnh.gov, litchfieldnh-nh.gov, we have to buy them from the federal government. We used to pay $125 a domain name, went up to $400 per domain name this year alone. That's not represented in this thing. I just actually got the increase, so we'll level it out somewhere else. But just know that everywhere anybody can get more money, their costs are going up.
So that'll be more next year?
The next year I'll carry it. Yeah. I already paid for it this year.
Okay.
So. 630, which is equipment maintenance. This is the line that maintains all of our hardware, software. That's generally used by all the different town entities. That's an increase of $6,600. The reason why this, one of the increases is because of the fact that a lot of our maintenance contracts are single-year contracts. Last year, we attempted to go 3 years to save us some money, and that was not accepted because it was a big increase in the budget. So now, this year, we're actually faced with increases in yearly cost when we could have saved some money in the long 3 years. But, it is what it is, but that's most of the increases there. The other thing to note, too, is a lot of our equipment that we purchased over 6 years ago and has been in service for 6 years is now becoming obsolete. And so, we have to start thinking about refreshing it, and that's something we'll approach in the 2018 planning for 19. There's also an increase in the IT manager's wages, or stipend, I guess is what it really is, or salary, however you want to call it. But basically, that's more around moving it towards a rate that makes more sense, because right now we spend, or I spend, up front, 9 hours on average a week in and out of the town, dealing with, whether in cruisers, in the fire department, whatever, dealing with technology problems. I do not just take care of the computers in town. I'm also helping the police department with all their technical assets, whether it be lights, sirens, radar detectors, whatever, all that kind of thing. So on average, it's 9 hours. It's 1 hour a day, and it's almost 4 hours every weekend.
So I have a question there. If the goal is to move it towards something that makes more sense, why didn't we do that when we had the full budget for it? The budget committee a couple of years ago approved paying for a full outsourced person. It was $54,000 in the budget. So we had that opportunity at that time to do that. Why didn't we just do it?
So I think at the time, $54,000 does not give you the same services they're getting today. And that was something that was explained back then. If you go to a contract service, you're paying for, I got a problem, you got a call, They come in hours, they come in days, whenever they come out. It's not the same level of service. To actually support the town in the way it would be, you'd almost consider bringing on a full-time person like other towns have. That's all they do. They just take care of the assets of the town, technology. And now you're looking at a fully waged person.
Right, at that time, we had talked about the possibility of combining between the town and the school, because at the time, neither one really justified a full-time, but if you put them together,
So the town and the school talked several times on trying to combine their assets. It's net, with all the changes that have occurred in the school side, it's never actually worked out. And the other side of it too is, the school treats their IT a little differently. I'll give you an example. The cable committee has to pay for an internet service out of this building because we cannot ride the bandwidth that they have in school. They're already paying for it by the same tax dollar. Because there's some, filtering requirements they have, there's a bunch of, child protection stuff they do, they don't want to open it up for us to use. Now, with the latest director that's there today, he's a little more open to that. But that's over the past couple of years, that's what we were faced up against. We couldn't leverage the same services.
If they were combined, everybody would get Chromebooks.
they already did get Chromebooks.
Who gets Chromebooks?
The high school.
High school?
So no differently than the question that I asked about, how did you come up with that, whoever we gave the increase to that hadn't had an increase in 19 years, how did we come to 12,000 to 18,000? How was that calculated?
So it's based on, the original rate was 25, well, it was not an hourly rate, it was just a flat yearly salary of $12,000. Just to try to put some justification around it. Like I said, the hours we work is, the hours that I'm putting in, about 9 hours on average, usually sometimes even worse than that. And the old rate was $25.64. If you want to do it by the hourly rate, the increase is to $38.46. If I was back in business on my own, this was my only job, my gig, it would be $65 an hour.
So do you have any, and I'm not doubting what you do, please understand.
Sure, that's fine.
But do you have any comparative data? Like, the police department was they were able to say, we compare it to Londonderry, Hudson. Do you have comparative data to other towns? Or can you get that? That would help us to understand.
I could, sure, but you're going to pay a lot more.
Okay. I would love to know that.
For a full-time
No,
position?
you're looking for data of what they pay for IT, either
Correct.
if they have paid staff or a contract service.
Correct.
Yeah, if you want to,
Just
you can go
compare
back
it,
to the original, you can go back to the original discussion, there was all that data was provided, I probably did get it all back up. We actually went out for contracts, we did a comparative, around what the services were.
And John, I'm only saying an increase from $25 an hour to $38 an hour is substantial. So I'm not saying it's not justified by any stretch. I'm just trying to understand how we got there.
And we have a lot of newer people, so I think the information will probably be helpful for newer people who weren't around back when the original discussion happened.
I can dig it up, and I'll just say one other comment about it, is that is my recommendation, not the board's recommendation. The board was going to go higher. So I'm trying to be reasonable.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay. And then I think moving on to I think it was 740, equipment purchases. Same program we've always had over the last 5 or 6 years. We do a life cycle replacement of the computers. That hasn't changed. The increase here represents the new copy release program for both the police department and the town hall that has to get replaced. So that's the cost that's associated there. Everything else is the same. And then the final is 741, which is, it says equipment leases, but it's actually, even when we purchase a copier, we still have to pay monthly for supplies and maintenance. So that's that cost, and that's the same as it's been year over year.
For the 5 computers, are you buying laptops or desktops?
No, they're all desktops. We have very little needs for laptops. We have a few, but most of them are desktops.
So when the police presented their budget, they had a photocopier.
It's zeroed out there, though.
Zeroed out.
It's zeroed out.
He misspoke. I don't
He
want
he
to-
referenced it because originally it was in his budget, and we pulled
Yeah.
it out because we're doing it as
Okay.
one
'Cause
lease.
that's why I just looked back on,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I thought he
Zeroed
mentioned
out.
that.
He did.
I was gonna raise it.
I wasn't gonna bring it up.
I was gonna say it was zeroed out, but I didn't want to fluster us, like,
Okay.
because he probably, at the end of the day, it's probably
It's
not
in his budget, but not in his budget.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I said, things that are, that are used commonly, kind of keep in the IT budget.
Yeah.
And if I gotta get called for it, then I'm gonna deal with making sure it gets paid.
I live too close to the police chief to correct him, so.
Any questions for information technology?
Like I said, I'll find that presentation, and I'll send it over, so you have it.
All right, personnel administration, 4155.1.
It may not matter when it comes down to the tax cap anyway.
Well, you'll cut the bottom line, the board will decide what they do with, how they spread it out, right?
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay, so one item that we currently do not have in this budget is our workers' compensation insurance policy for 2018. So that number right now is just a placeholder, the 72,000. The other increases are all driven by wage increases that were either given in 2017 and also planned for in 2018. So the only, when I say planned for in 2018, it would be the union salaries, not the non-union. The non-union salary increases should be here. Wage expense, account number 10-990, wage expense. We're carrying $15,000, and that number is will be used. It's a big lump sum number to continue with the performance review. That will not only be wage increases that will cover the cost that's associated with the Social Security taxes, any New Hampshire state retirement costs, all the payroll taxes.
So how much did we award in pay increases to non-union employees this time around? Was it a lump sum that you then divvied up, or did you just award certain percentages and then figure out what the amount
So
was?
we did a review, and so people, there basically was 3 categories. The top performers received a 3% increase. People that performed the job duties, show up to work, did their job, they got a 2%. And if anyone did not rate at that level, they received 0.
So we have a contract with the police officers who get 2%. Is that what they got this year?
They received, so their contract is they received 2% on April 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Our employees, some of them received a 3% on July 1st.
Right, so I find it fascinating that we award our police officers a 2% raise, but then for just showing up, you get another 2% as a town.
Say that again?
Because you said that if you show up and do your job, you get a 2% raise, and if I'm awarding a cop a 2% raise for doing what they do, showing up to do your job shouldn't earn you a 2% raise, in my opinion.
Are you planning to the town?
Some people didn't get raises.
So there's,
Yes.
You said,
so I was saying that the people who scored, they do their jobs. You're assigned to do a job. Just
Right.
like a police officer, fire, everyone. And there's no findings, whatever, then those people receive 2%. The people that actually exceeded the job requirements received a 3%.
yeah.
Same in the private sector. You have a
Absolutely.
meets expectations and an exceeds expectations. There's absolutely no difference.
And in the school work
That is
work
the
practices.
benefit and also the drawback of the collective bargaining agreement.
Well, they're not in a collective bargaining agreement. I always have an issue with just saying, well, you did your job, boom, automatic 2%.
They're not
Here,
getting
you
it
don't
on.
have meets expectations and exceeds expectations and different compensation based on it?
We had a pool that got divvied up.
That's
Based on
exactly.
performance.
Well, that's what they did. I
That's
asked
what
what
we
the
did.
pool was.
15,000.
It was 15,000, was it 15,000 for the CS pool?
Well, there was no pool this year.
Zero.
We made one up,
They
though.
cut it up. So I
were
think
a
we
little
did it all
irritated
just
about
under 20,000.
So my company had a pool and it got divvied up based on, yes, you had your award, you got ranked and you got,
That's
you know,
exactly
a
what happened
share.
there.
And that is not what just happened there because
I think Troy was generalizing.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So,
The way the wage plan was supposed to work is exactly how you're describing it.
Mm-hmm.
The Board of Selectmen sets a pool. That pool then is divvied out based on performance reviews.
Right.
And
So
it's,
my
and
husband's
it's,
job
it's,
does it.
you know, 3 categories, exceed, not exceed, whatever. And that's how that happens.
But I'm
And that's
just-
how we executed this year.
Right, that's fine, but a pool does not always mean that you're gonna necessarily get 3%.
That's not what it was. That's what we decided. It's not what it means every year.
People got less than 3%.
Yeah.
Right.
Not everybody got the 3%.
And didn't you allude to earlier that some people didn't receive any?
Some people
Right.
did not
They don't receive anything.
Right, so needs improvement is 0,
Yeah.
meets expectations is 2, exceeds, that's
Yeah.
literally exactly the same. in
There's
Marketplace.
people that are maxed out.
Conversation about
They
Correct.
did not receive
People are
a
not
pay
meeting
increase, so.
expectations. We should be,
What do you mean?
if they're at will.
Do other towns do that?
A lot of, so a lot of governmentals are based on step programs, and it's, you're in the seat, and you're getting a bump based on anniversaries. We were that way too, so a lot of raises happened without any control, it was just done, right? We felt many years ago, when we started to do this, was to be more, be market competitive, because, you know, as a resource pool, it's tough to find good employees, and then to reward them based on them doing a really good job, not because I sat here and I didn't smile at the person at the desk, whatever, you know, that kind of thing. So, to me, it's more, you know, in the private sector, right? It follows the same model. I mean, that's how, when I rate my employees, it's based on those same kind of categories. And even if I meets, exceeds, sometimes they don't get an increase, but.
You have
Because
to
you're maxed
spread it out.
Because we're maxed
And
out.
yeah.
So you do take some liberties in trying to do it justified, right? Because there may be one that got a real good raise last year, still doing a great job, but I got somebody else doing this is better and they didn't get a reward the day before, right? So those are all decisions that we're making as management for all these employees. We're trying to be fair.
And there's been a push to get away from the step increases, basically just show up, and for longevity, you get an increase. So I applaud you,
Yes.
because this has been something that's needed to have been done for a long time, and the criticism has been leveled that it has needed to be done for a long time. So I applaud you for doing it, and now justifying who gets a raise or who doesn't get a raise. I think that's great.
And it set the groundwork for, like you all are involved, you know, in these reviews. It allowed management to sit down, go over their strengths, weaknesses. It actually should back up. We made them all do a self-evaluation. That was something new too, and, you know, they're all like
That's
looking
what
at
they
us
do
like
with
we're
my
crazy.
husband's job, yeah.
But we both, management and labor, found that to be very beneficial because it really opened up the conversation where either we were in agreement on areas that needed improvement, or like, no, I think you're fine there, but this is where I'm really concerned about. And it started that dialogue, and then it wrapped up with talking about goals and expectations for the next 12 months. So we actually have it lined up, to, you know, something to benchmark against next year. Not just, okay, you've completed your 13th year here with the town.
Yeah.
And I think that I definitely think is great. So, you want something that's objectively measurable.
All right, any other questions on personnel administration?
Goodness, no.
All right, general government facilities, 4194.1.
All right, same custodian. So he's just kind of spread out there, a couple different, he's the same custodian that does the rec facilities, okay?
So he's looking at a whopping $250 increase.
Yeah.
Cindy, what's the number again?
4194.10.
It's general government buildings.
Oh.
That's how it's listed.
Oh, there
on
it is.
Let's see here. Okay, so, you know, you got your increases, as we said, the custodian, a small increase in the wage, electricity, propane gas, water, those are all based on just run rates and our historical use, and some estimated increases. And then the next large increase is our gasoline. And this is driven by, we're carrying the same amount of cost per gallon at $2.25, but I believe our gallons, our usage is up.
actually total all those columns for me, that would be great.
Yeah, to date, there's, it's been 25,000. 28.5%.
So that covers, this covers the highway department, this is all just unleaded fuel. Highway, fire, solid waste, and the generator.
This week, October.
This is missing.
So, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but if the 2015 highway usage was 3,900, the 2016 was 2,900, our current from July to June 2017, our run rate is 1,800. Why are we estimating 4,000?
Well, there's something, I need to double check this because I'm quite certain that the police department is supposed to be, oh, this is diesel. I'm sorry, hold on here a second.
Who uses diesel? Just the fire department?
Highway
Highway department.
Heavy machines.
Fire would use, they have some diesel, highways diesel,
Cheaper than regular.
solid waste has diesel.
Yeah, the diesel is in both places,
Yeah, that's,
so we don't have a link to fire, to fuel, regular gasoline.
Oh, that makes sense, thank you.
Because you're right, I had not even noticed that, and I had printed
know.
it out, and because I had that question about diesel.
I think the numbers don't add up, right, because we use a lot less diesel fuel than we do regular fuel, so I'm just, those numbers look right for gallons, but that can't be, the math does not add up. I sound like Carrie.
So is it the 18,500 plus what's in the other table?
it's just.
That'd be about right.
Well, what's in the other table is already part of fire budget, already part of police budget, so it shouldn't be two places. So this should be a completely different chart.
You guys don't pay state tax on the fuel, do you?
No.
What about federal?
How is that?
No, the only, we're exempt from taxes, but there's a couple mandatory taxes they're really environmental taxes. So those are just mandatory, but yeah.
Okay, because it's 42 cents a gallon in New Hampshire, from what we pay
Yeah,
at the
we
pump.
we don't.
I'm
pay-
saying,
yeah.
so if we're paying $2.40, you're really paying $2 or $1.98.
We pay the cash price, so we tend to run, it's cash price every day, so whenever the tanker
Yep.
comes, whatever the price is that day is what we pay. I've seen it bounce up this year, up to $2.50 a gallon on some deliveries. I think that what I saw just the other day, they filled the tank at $2.09, so it's kind of bouncing back and forth.
Futures, they get really.
So I don't know can you try clicking on that link now?
I
think
did, and there's some information now, but it's not a chart. It's,
So,
oh, wait a minute. Okay, now it's there.
okay, sorry about that.
Everything's come back on now.
I put the diesel in, the unleaded.
Usage 17. The run rate right now is around 18. So what's the big jump if we've been averaging around 17 and this year we're at 18?
I think, I don't know, I mean, we have the, I don't want to, we've added some police we've added the police officer, we're going to add another one.
They're not
That
doing
is more
anything.
time on the road.
But they're not doing anything, right? Yeah.
It's also detail fuel.
Details, fuel.
So we still gotta fund it, right? So the fuels for detail cars are in there.
So
As
we
far as
don't,
usage
we
goes.
don't pull money out of what we get paid for detail for the fuel.
We do.
We pull it out as a, it comes in as a revenue. So we gross budget. That was one of the things that I've been trying to, and now I think we've got it all gross budgeted, but there was a lot of credits going on the last couple of years.
I think we originally did an offset like 20 grand at the bottom of the
Right.
budget to do it, and that wasn't working out long-term.
We added a cruiser too. There's
Yeah.
5 in the
And
fleet is
you've got
4.
another cruiser running.
Right.
I don't want to say it's all police cruisers, but I'm just saying that
Probably the lion's
that would
share.
increase, because really nothing's changed in the other departments.
Is it true they just don't police cars
Cars
just
never
run
do
you
I don't
24?
know anything about this, Liz.
What?
I don't know anything about that.
Any cruiser.
This is what my dad told me.
Any
Okay,
cruiser,
there you go.
any
My dad was a
cruiser
smart
that is
man.
on duty is not shut off, it's run the whole shift.
Yeah, it's-
Well, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, you
Unless
never
you're
know
at,
when you
unless you're at
jump
the
into it.
station or
Yeah.
something. But if you're out on the road, they, just to keep all the gears, all the computers up and running, you can't they shut them off. And then in the wintertime, specifically for the computers, it gets too cold in there,
Right.
so.
All right, I
It's
want
zero
to keep
when
an
the
eye on
revenue's
the
right.
time. It's 9
Thank
o'clock. We
you.
still have more to go, so any other information
That's
for
for this year,
government
Tom?
buildings?
No.
We have a forecast a little bit.
All right, town insurance, 4196.9. That's sort of a set,
Yeah, and these, so we don't, I don't believe we have this yet, do we? Yeah, that's last year's policy, so we're still waiting for the property liability. So we should be getting the workers' comp, property liability, somewhere very close to the end of the month, first couple weeks in November.
So, we only used 1,000 of the deductible? This is one of those things that just,
So there are times when we're involved in an accident, we have $1,000 deductible, and this is where we would charge that $1,000 expense.
to me, I know you hate it, but I,
But I'm gonna say it anyway.
but I'm gonna say it anyway, like, just a fund that is there, because otherwise, every year you're putting $2,000 in, and if you only spend $1,000 of it, that other grand gets put back into the general budget when, really, it's for deductibles. So just have a fund for deductibles, and as you use it, then replenish it.
Like a revolving fund?
Because otherwise,
Like
you,
for
every
approved
year,
time?
it's just like a little extra money that if you don't use it, gets spent somewhere else, when it's really for deductibles. It's just, that's one of the,
I understand your frustration, but, I could tear this entire budget apart and create 50 separate funds.
I'd be fine with that, honestly. I know Bill would hate it.
The voters would
Bill
not
would
be
have hated
happy
it,
with
but
that.
I would
And our
like.
auditors wouldn't be happy with it either.
all right, mosquito district, 441120. This again is basically a contract.
And that contract should be, that's the revised, they've not changed their price, they continue to hold their price. We're very satisfied with their work. They know the town, they know where they're putting the testing traps out, and so.
So just a really quick question, I know I asked it last year, but why do we need to advertise? John Oliver did it for us.
We don't advertise as a course, it's just, if there's an event, we gotta put up signs and get the word out, and that's the fun for that.
All right.
Mosquitoes are coming, mosquitoes are coming.
Do you just have like pre-made ones that you put up whenever it's like,
There are pre-made ones, but they gotta buy them.
Yeah.
but not every year?
They don't spend, it's $300, I just,
Yeah.
The
I wanted
signs
to
go
throw
on
a
the
John
plate
Oliver
body.
reference
There
out
you
there, I thought
go.
I was being witty.
Health agencies, 4415.
It's 44.
All the agencies.
All right. So why did the selectmen pick a few to put in?
Oh,
And
I'm going home.
we talking about this
I gotta
again?
go to work this one.
that was, well, it says 218 warrant article
What-
requests, so are you gonna do a warrant article
They said
again?
no.
Okay,
Oh,
I
this
didn't hear
is,
that.
this matches what we did last year, what the voters voted for.
Again,
If voters wanna add more to it, they can come deliberate and do it.
This is voted on
realistically
behalf
though,
of-
it's a really nice way of reducing your budget to under the tax cap. If we take it out of the budget and put it back into a warrant article.
All right, vendor payments, welfare,
Then you don't approve it as a warrant article, 'cause it's over the budget tax cap. It's the same
People can
argument.
still vote for it.
People could still vote for the, well,
I'm gonna motion for $19,010 when we get here.
any questions on welfare?
What was the
Right.
welfare number, 40?
It's
44,
10,000.
45,
Oh, yeah,
oh,
sorry.
dot 20.
45, that's one.
Year-to-date, we're at about $1,500. That's all we've spent.
This is the tough time of the year now, when they start needing to turn the heat on. PSNA, or Eversource starts to get very aggressive on outstanding accounts. So, we've had a good year, though. We've had an excellent year.
Well, and a good prior year as well.
Yeah.
The 3-year average is pretty good. 2-year average. All right, patriotic purposes, 45,831.
No change here, and this is all direct costs for the Memorial Day events.
$1,200 well spent.
All right.
I don't know, they used to buy a wreath and throw it in the river. No, just kidding.
4611.2 conservation.
You're the guy trying to start trouble, aren't you?
Remember doing it.
You can't get to the river.
So I don't know if you have the answer or not, but I thought one of the conservation meetings I watched, they were not going to be doing the fishing derby.
Well, I asked again this year, and that was the original, coming right off this fishing derby this year. They said they weren't going to do it, the membership was getting old, whatever. Since that time, they've actually brought on some younger volunteers.
Oh, good.
And they want to continue it. Those volunteers want to be actively involved in it, so they're going to give it another year.
Okay,
So it
good.
goes.
And debt service, 4723.1.
I'll approve that one.
And this is still just a placeholder for nothing.
Yes.
Well,
You need.
one article on the fire station will fill that up quickly.
Got it.
You need to have the placeholder there.
Got it.
Because without the appropriation, you wouldn't be able to, if something came up.
Darn.
You wouldn't be able to do something.
Wouldn't that be
But I will
terrible?
tell you, I'm just starting to reach out to the bond bank, to find out the steps that the town needs to take leading up to the bond article. And one of the things that I learned was that for bonding the fire station project, funding would not be required until 2019.
Really?
Yeah, I figured that we'd make at least one interest payment in 2018. But the way we'd receive approval, if the bond articles passes in March,
Does it need 2/3?
they would sell it's 2/3 approval. You'd sell the bond in July. The first payment would be in February 2019. That would be interest only. And then in July 2019, you make an interest and principal payment. So literally this year, the article would not have a tax impact for 2018, which does kind of help with the tax cap
Well,
question too.
it creates a bigger problem the next year.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that
Huge one.
I've been
That's
thinking that it's going to increase our overage over the tax cap. It looks like there will be no tax impact for 2018.
So if there's no appropriation for the 2018, would the budget committee then need to, yes, because they would,
There's a dollar figure.
Financial implication with it.
yeah, there's no
passage.
financial
Not a-
implication for
But it's a
2018.
dollar figure warrant article. We still have to vote on it, I'm pretty sure.
Right, because there is a financial implication.
That's what I
of it.
mean, it's on a bond that will in the future have an
Yeah,
implication, but
it's
there's
a
no
bond.
2018.
Have
Wouldn't-
to
I wouldn't be
disclose that,
raising,
won't you?
I would not be raising and appropriating any
Yeah,
money.
can we check with legal
Well,
counsel?
we'll be getting, legal
What
counsel
the
will write the
responsibility of the
article for us
budget
and
committee
stuff,
would
yeah.
be to recommend or not recommend a bond that has no nothing to raise and appropriate in that particular year.
That's really bizarre.
Isn't a bond 3/5, not 2/3? 60%.
66 and 2/3, I think.
I thought it was 2/3.
No, it's 60% under Senate
Six,
Bill
it's
2.
3/5. It used to be when the
Six-
school
66
passed, it was
2/3.
2/3.
Right, it's
It's still a lot.
60% under Senate Bill 2.
60% for the bond. You need 60, not 66, but, yeah.
Still a hefty percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we could get, I mean, we're doing warrant articles in December, but if we could get some clarification between now and then.
Especially when you consider some of the other ones coming up.
Have you guys even thought about the length?
We haven't even started having that conversation,
We don't even know how much yet,
and
do
we don't know how
Oh.
much yet.
You
So,
could- You could do, I'm just looking at, not that I intend to be sitting here at this time next year.
Why?
I think I said that last year.
Dennis.
Just looking at the tax cap's 175,000, and you're gonna have, I don't know, 100,000 at a minimum, I would guess, for the fire station bond.
Well, think about how much was the
That's
school
a-
bond?
The school bond was 13 million over 15 years. or
And
nine-
it was
900,000.
900,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do the math, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying,
So it's 300 grand.
All right, that's a December discussion, really. Revenues, what do we need to know about revenues?
nothing,
enough.
those, so those revenues are the revenues we just used to set the tax rate. So they're the current estimates. The one thing I did, I just increased car registration fees a little bit, projecting that we would collect
Is that in here?
a little bit more in 2018.
Okay.
projecting
So-
anything to go down.
That kind of jumps us into, the tax rate was recently set.
Yeah, that was fun.
And interestingly enough, our calculations last year, and I might say my calculations last year, were pretty much right on the money. The
Really right.
town was 28, and we projected 29. The school was 89, and I think we projected 88. I think we're off by a penny on both.
That means you can keep your job.
Thanks.
We'll let you do it again this year.
And that's at least 2 or 3 years in a row she's like
But
nailed it.
no, I think the first round, there was a significant math
So
error.
last year, the town was right on, the school was different, so I was glad to see this year the school was
Close.
right on. So, yeah, so this is just here for if there's any questions or just for your information. The next item, Budget Committee recommendation, I just wanted to make sure, I know this was briefly touched on, but the question was raised earlier this fall about our frustration with the tax cap. And the Budget Committee is going to have to not recommend, very likely not recommend some articles that we would like to recommend. And would be possible for us to designate in these warrant articles, Budget Committee does not recommend, only due to the tax cap overage. The recommendation came back that, no, we cannot add that verbiage, we either recommend or we don't recommend. But there is nothing preventing us, as Budget Committee members, from expressing that at deliberative session or any time in public.
Writing
That-
letters to the HLN,
That the
posting
only
to
reason
Facebook.
we could not recommend is because of our limitations with the tax cap.
So I would suggest if we could, if it became obvious which way the committee was going, if everybody abstained, that would be a pretty clear message that, not that I'm a fan of abstentions, but you could send a message that way by.
If everyone abstains, the motion fails?
The
Still
motion
fails, but it's 0 to...
008.
It's like a giant coup you're suggesting.
There was somebody
This is
on
Dennis
the
we're
board who
talking
said
about. Of
we
course
had
he
to vote.
suggested a coup.
Nice, thank you.
Well, all right,
Just throw it out for people to think about.
that's certainly food for thought.
If you want to vote yes, but you think you have to vote no because of a tax cap issue, I could convince myself that would be a reason to abstain from the vote, because you're not voting what you...
Well, I think some of it is voting your conscience too,
Yeah.
right? So like last year, I voted against road maintenance because I wanted to have other things, but that's not how the whole committee came
Correct.
through, you know,
But-
so.
But we also had some switches at the end of the budget cycle to try to get to a more palatable situation.
We did.
I'm just saying, if we,
Can avoid that.
I might abstain on a few votes if I would normally vote yes, but it's clear we're going to be over the cap
Valid
if
point.
that was approved.
Wow.
That means that only
It's
one
an
person votes in
interesting
favor of it.
thought, 'cause I'm not
It
a
passes.
fan of abstaining.
Neither am I.
So that's an interesting something
But
to
I'm being
consider.
forced to vote one way.
Or
vice-
You can
against.
find savings elsewhere to make sure that you have enough money to vote yes.
There is that. All right, one thing I do want to get.
We tried that last
Thank
year.
you for food for thought. One thing I do want to get to is the selectmen have decided to create a committee to look at costs, to look at all of the things associated with bringing a fire station forward. It's going to meet over the fall, conclude by January?
Say.
Well, whenever the
Well, it has to
warrant
be-
article,
It would
right?
lead right up to March, and then,
But
you know, if it passes, then maybe the committee wants to continue to exist to oversee the project, but that can be discussed later.
So over the years, there's been a couple of different schools of thought. Years ago, budget committee members used to sit on community, big community projects like this, such as the forming of the high school, the addition to LMS. Budget committee participated in those. As voting members, to bring to that committee the feel of the budget committee, and to also bring information back to the budget committee, to keep the budget committee informed on what the committee was discussing, what directions they were going in, what things they were looking at. Then there was some concern when one of the elementary school proposals around 2004, 2005, 2006, the budget committee was participating in that. When the proposal was brought forward, a majority of the budget committee did not support it, and there were hard feelings of why you had a member on, why are you blindsiding us, why is this happening now? So from that day forward, the budget committee said, fine, we're not going to participate in any community committees. Which brings us to today. What is the feeling of this committee in terms of appointing somebody to sit on the fire station committee and be either a non-voting member, a voting member, or just another pair of eyes in the room?
I think that it would be very hard for any one of us to try and go and represent all of us, because I think we have massively differing viewpoints and perspectives. To participate as a non-voting member, I might consider. Certainly to participate as a citizen who is also on the budget committee, but to try and represent this group, I think would be a nightmare. I mean, we are all over the board in terms of what our thoughts are, and I think that's kind of what makes us work.
And I think
So-
too, if you're representing the budget committee, you'd have to bring forth a proposal, have people vote on it, and then bring back the committee's view.
And then we've already
Are we
voted.
agreeing?
Oh, my goodness.
You scream more often than you think.
So other thoughts?
I think we will get an ample amount of information from the selectmen's rep and Troy that we don't need representation.
Well, I think too, if it's opened up for people to put their names in, a person could put their name in as a citizen without having to represent.
Any other thoughts on this side of the table?
Bob, get ground.
I don't think, again, I don't think going there as a citizen, I would consider it. I personally think they should just do a safety complex and just don't be penny smart and dollar dumb like we always are, like we build a too small LMS. Like, that's my theory, so I think we're gonna build this, and then 5 years down the road, we're gonna do an addition that we could have just built out when we were there. That's just my own personal opinion, so I'm not going to go there, because I figured getting through budget was enough, and working midnights. So that's my honest opinion, so I certainly wouldn't want to go there and have them be like, oh my God, that guy, woo. So, we already get a bad rap as it is, because we kick kids on the street and all these different things, and take away people's popcorn and
Can't
all
heat the
those
school
things.
or the
So, yeah,
town, you know.
exactly. So, steal the salt, there's not enough salt, so, yeah.
Or sand.
All right.
Yeah.
Kids don't have sand.
Any other thoughts, comments? All right, so I hear the answer is no, the budget committee.
I'll make a motion, would you like to do it that way and make it official?
You can do
I'll
whatever
make
you
a
want.
motion that the budget committee not send a representative to the.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I'll second.
As a representative of the budget committee.
Of the budget committee, right.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
distribute
we can go to
logistics.
citizen.
Okay, it's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain?
Abstain.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike, there are only.
801.
No,
Can I just
but
recap on a
just
couple
gonna say,
things?
you were the select-
Before you
Recap on a
adjourn,
couple of
that's all.
things, yep.
I just want to because we're going to take next week off.
Yes.
We're going to get together and meet again. And I just wanted to point out, just remind you that we don't have our dental, we don't have our health insurance premiums, the property liability, the workers' comp, and we just got the recreation department. I got to work out what you heard that discussion tonight. So when we meet again, hopefully we have those numbers, and then I can highlight those changes that are made to the budget, okay?
Keep your eye on the budget that's online
Yeah,
because that's
because it will
interactive.
change. The bottom line will change. If I get this information added, it'll change. And,
Well, you don't change until the selectmen vote on it, correct?
The spreadsheet may change, it just but it won't be represented, because that's his live document, so he's updating it there anyway.
Okay.
and I just wanted to let you know that we did receive our health insurance rates.
Okay.
I'm going to be presenting them to the Board of Selectmen Monday night, and we'll have a discussion on what we're going to do.
Oh, that's not good.
But they're 17.39% rate increase. So,
Time to renegotiate those deals.
All right,
The big one's gonna come in a month and a half, though, because I would probably think the school's in the
let's
same
have the
boat.
same situation.
Yeah, 'cause
All
I'm
right.
What did you, for this budget,
So-
what was it, a rate increase you used?
I have built into this budget a 10% assumption.
So it's almost double.
I can tell you, I don't know who the school's with, but I heard that the Health Trust, which we used to be with, that their rate actually decreased this year. It went down 6%.
Wow.
So
You're not with Health
I'd
Trust.
like to take a look at that product. It's tough, though. We have a
School
union
choice.
environment, and, it's hard.
School choice? I think there was school choice.
They're probably with school choice.
School care.
Didn't we use school care?
Okay.
We were with school originally, I don't know if we had to get off it.
I
don't
think
remember
there's
the
a.
deal.
I
We
think
changed
Troy-
a while,
I'm gonna need
the
that
school
copy.
changed a
You don't
while
need
back.
that.
Oh,
That's
that's
for
why it
school.
changed, and then,
It was to save
All right,
money with the contract or
Jen
something,
has
so-
one more question.
Oh, okay.
And if this was covered in the last 26 minutes, I haven't watched yet, I apologize, but is it possible for you to give a breakdown of, say, like the past 3 years, department proposed versus selectmen proposed for 15, 16, and 17? Total budget?
why
Department proposed versus
Selectmen.
selectmen?
Yes.
I don't
So,
believe that
so
the
what I
data
can do
really.
is I have year-end 2014, 2015. We have 2016 in here. So if you want that, all I've been doing is looking up, if I hit something that strikes me, I'll look up 14, look up 15,
Yeah,
look
no,
up 16.
so I
see
guess
what
what
the
I'm,
difference is.
what I'm looking at is what each individual department came in and proposed to the selectmen, and what you all then made reductions to. And I'm just looking at the bottom line. So this year, there's a 500, it was proposed by the departments a $565,000 increase. The selectmen proposed a $545,000 increase, meaning you all cut only $20,000 from your budget. I'm just looking to see, is that in line with what we did in 17 and 16 and 15? Because it feels like, to me, just looking at it, you're asking the budget committee to do the heavy lifting in terms of the cuts. So,
no, we're not, we don't want you to cut anything. We believe the Board of Selectmen's budget that's been presented is what we believe is required to run the town at the level we're at.
But we can't support it.
That's not my problem.
That's nice.
It's gonna be your problem come
It will
January.
become our problem, and every year that our budget's been reduced, we have been able to deal with that issue. But,
yep, so understood. So just as a business person trying to understand, do you typically just go with whatever the departments present to you and leave it to the budget committee to make the cuts?
no, we do not, and quite frankly.
Then why are you doing it this year?
We're not. We agreed with, because every year, our budgeting process gets even more tighter, right? Because every year, we have more oversight at the management level. So between the department heads and the town administrator, they're filtering out. We're getting what we believe is to be a very accurate budget.
Okay. Is it still possible to just get a comparative for?
I don't know if I can, actually.
The record is the Board of Selectmen's budget. That is the budget. So we can certainly give you the 15, 14, 15, 16 of the book.
You could probably go watch the meetings.
But also.
Well, I have, somewhere in my stack of papers, I have
Jen,
the initial budget.
I
and
think I have the budgets for, I think I have 13, the spreadsheets, 13, which will have it representative there, but what you're gonna miss is the context. Because don't forget, at one point in time, the department would come to the board with a project that they believe, something they want to try to do. The board will look at it, because we have to look at the whole town, right? So we prioritize. We may have said, no, we're not gonna do that this year, and we reduced the budget by $30,000 in a single department head, right? You don't have the context. That's my only concern, is you don't have the context.
Understood. Would just say again, it feels as though the selectmen are relying on the budget committee to do the heavy lifting.
No, that's not the case.
Okay.
But I can tell you that, in my experience for the last 2 years, that it's more of a teamwork effort between the department heads and the selectmen.
That's good to hear.
So, there's sometimes it's just, I don't want to call it negotiating, but there's just an agreement that's made. So, the number in department proposed gets changed, the same thing the selectmen, everyone agreed to. So there's usually not much of a delta between the two.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're also trying to set the priorities, right? And the department's going into the budget planning, knowing what we believe is the right direction for the town. And there is always the one-offs, right? We have a new truck we need in the highway department. That's a warrant article, I get it, and we 100% support it. I'd rather see that in the budget, only because it's a replacement of an existing vehicle, but we went the warrant route. So
I get what you're saying about you don't get the context, so I'm just.
That's what I'm
curious.
concerned about, because the context, I think, is something that's of value, right? And that you don't get it if you don't watch the meetings and know what the dialogue was. But I believe we have the budgets, the same budget spreadsheet we've been using since like 13 or 14. Again, just the context missing, though.
So, back to the truck, though, because one of the things not the truck specifically.
Why did I bring it up?
No, this isn't about the trucks per se.
I know.
But like a 5-year equipment replacement plan, like that could be approved, or something like that. Like, rather than spiking the budget with like a $60,000 purchase and then the next year not having anything, like what's the 5-year plan for how many trucks have to be replaced, how the turnout gear has to be replaced, the tasers have to be replaced? What is the plan over the next 5 years or 10 years, whatever makes sense, as to what we're looking at? Because we get bits and pieces of it every year, like I need to replace 3 here and 2 here, okay.
So there's a capital plan that has been published. I thought it was shared with the committee last year, which basically identifies all of our capital assets, trucks, stuff like that, and then has their life cycle and what the replacement cost is.
I don't think we got that
Yeah, that
last year.
doesn't ring a bell.
No.
Well, we have it.
We have one.
Yeah.
So the
and
school
we're working
just-
on,
right.
it was up to 2014.
Outdated now.
Right?
So,
However,
They can't dump extra money into multi-year money, can they?
and we're going to be preparing the next 5-year plan or 6-year
Okay.
plan. But, we'll share that with you. I'll share it with you, and you'll take a look at it, and a lot of people don't believe, I believe in capital planning.
yeah.
And you can spend a lot of time and work out a great plan. The plan, and you'll see, doesn't get funded.
Well,
So it is easy to sit here and say, we need a plan, but
see,
you
I
gotta
think
fund
that's
the plan too.
right, which the
If
school
it doesn't get
just-
funded, then everything gets pushed back, everything gets pushed back, everything gets pushed back. Now you're piecemealing every year. You're just trying to
Which
piecemeal.
I don't, one of the things I have an issue with is how we're very reactive instead of proactive. So the school just put together a plan that's in the draft phase of what's going to, like, what needs to be spent on each school over the next 5 years and where it is. I'd love to see something like that in the town. The fire department needs this over the next 5 years. This is
And even
critical.
new fire station, by
But
the
you
way.
can't, and then you have to step back and be realistic. I could put together that plan, but you can't fund it.
Why? Yes, no.
How are you gonna fund it?
Historically, as a former school board member, we
There's
had
no
all kinds of
multi-year funding.
5- and 3-year plans. Within the first year, it's all shot to hell. So you can make these plans, but they don't get funded, and that is the reality of it.
I'm going to prove you wrong.
Okay, you're on. So I'm going to skip over the school. It was just a general update, but I did pass out some information. There was a request to have more detail about the IT purchases that were made at the end of the fiscal year. So I want to get to member input, miscellaneous business. We meet on the 26th. That is when we're going to make our reductions, our broad reductions. again, keep your eye on, there's a page called tax cap. Keep your eye on that, because that's, again, live as to what the budget total is, what revenues are, what we're over the tax cap or under the tax cap. That's going to be our benchmark. We need to come under the tax cap. Whether that's warrant articles, whether that's reductions, we need to come under that. So you're going to have to give some thought to the 26th of how you want to approach it. You know, we could certainly just do, you know, have a 5-minute meeting, lump sum, we're over 68,000, cut 68,000, you guys figure out where, adjourned. I mean, that's certainly one way to do it. You can make reductions by, well, 10,000, I believe that gasoline is a little overstated, 20,000, because I think, you know, this is happening. We can certainly do it piecemeal and get to the 68 or whatever that number is. So think about the process and how you want that to go when we meet in 2 weeks.
And I really think, as chair of the budget committee, you should reach out to LGC Legal and ask their opinion on just a bottom line cut. Because I believe that the budget committee, being an elected budget committee, it's your job to produce a budget. And there are columns in those DRA forms where we have to fill in every cell of what the budget committee recommends. And if you give me a bottom line cut of just $60,000, am I supposed to make up what you recommend? I can't do that. I really believe that you're going to find that legal counsel is going to say, you need to be specific on your reductions.
By department or by line?
By line.
But I'll tell you, we could,
Because if you go look at the budget form that we post, well, let me get the budget form.
Read what the cut is, and if I line,
Yeah,
I'll
but
absorb it.
are we the right people to do that?
It doesn't.
Your
job.
Really,
your
it's our
All I'm
job.
saying, no.
Doesn't
That's-
matter.
I mean, you guys know exactly, like you said, you have a budget that you believe in, that you think has been very, very thoroughly thought through. All right,
I
so,
understand that. It's-
yeah, so if you're looking at, to us to do line by lines, we have to really be deep on each of those subjects before we make those cuts, don't we?
I also think at the end of the day, to piggyback on that, it's a bottom line budget anyways.
Yeah.
We can go into any line, I can go pick out the dog catcher and say, sorry, dude, stipend, gone.
Well, I think what
And-
Dennis
and-
did last year
But it's,
is what you did was you knew.
I picked on health insurance because it was a big number.
Well, he knew. He goes, Dennis, what he did was, all right,
Yeah,
I'm
we
just going to
took it-
pick, I'm going to cut 30,000 bottom line. You need it specific? Yeah. Okay, cut health insurance and fire, police, and the selectmen's line.
that was actually
And that's-
Dennis and I, just to let you know.
So you're okay with
There you
that?
go.
Throw me a little kudos. all right?
Sorry.
I didn't have my
That's-
crayons out. but
That's how
I
you
did.
guys, that's how you did it.
So,
That's how you did it.
Yeah, and
I
that's,
think
and
what-
that could be, if that's what you're looking for, Troy,
I
we can,
just-
yeah, that's
Because
fine.
I think what we all need to avoid is the nickel and dime of $50 here, $100 there, because that's a waste of.
I just know that on the budget form, there's a column for selectmen recommend, and there's a column for budget committee recommend. And
Yeah, I think we can.
I need to know what you recommend.
Because quite frankly, when the budget gets voted on,
Yeah,
you guys are going to go move money around anyway.
Right, yeah,
You have to.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you're going to do it whether you get the default or whether you get the operating budget.
Because we have to operate.
Yep.
Oh, speaking of time, I know it's early, but just timeline for the default?
January 1st? Yeah, no, it'll be sooner than that. When we get these other
The insurance
policies in,
numbers.
and stuff like that.
Okay.
17.7.
All right.
Yep.
Any
I should have
other
everything you want.
member input or business to take up? If not, a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second. It's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we will meet October 26th.